Nah, this is not starting day too good.
Let's go, they're the GOATs.
Oh my god, I've actually never seen this clip. That was actually a crazy clip.
I think this was the best moment for playing competitive that can happen.
We're gonna watch some clips, let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, so we got Thomas and Malibuco on height.
Oh yeah, I remember this. That's a good clip.
Let's see what they're gonna do.
He's just fragging out.
They have pulse rifle. Mine is the pulse rifle.
Yeah, the pulse rifle. I'm so happy that I saw it again.
Just chilling. Probably win this game.
We got kids on low ground with 0. Embarrassing.
Oh no, the katana.
That's a nice shot from Thomas AG, I'm not gonna lie.
Of course, Thomas hits his bullet.
No mess.
2v2 on low ground.
He's better in
Oh,
than Hen.
120.
Yeah, Thomas played that perfectly. He played that so good.
Thomas AG with 9. That's a crazy game, I'm not gonna lie. Gun final to do this, that's crazy.
Yeah, Hen
Yep,
couldn't do
boom.
that.
I could do that easy, but Trashy couldn't.
Okay.
Because he's trashy
Okay.
at the game. Oogway, Hen, and
Wait,
Janice.
that's his duo.
Wait, that's my trio right there.
It's Steamy Stags and Mr. SPY. This PY was so good.
This is game 12, I remember this, man. It is just such an iconic moment in Fortnite history.
It's crazy.
Oogway spamming people down. We do drop them out.
Playing crazy.
I remember seeing this clip on Twitter as well. And then the reaction is just Hen screaming like he always does.
Yanis and Uruguay just playing crazy right now.
Then we drop down to low ground.
Yeah, they're gonna win the game. I saw this. He's gonna go up.
Hen, Chapix, and Janice. Hen goes up for the high ground. Takes height.
What a play.
What a player. Wait, gets dropped. Oh, oh my god, he survives.
Misses every shot.
There's a win here that they play so well.
Let's go. They're the GOATs. That's why we call them the GOATs.
Janice is crazy.
Janice and Hen are going wild, absolutely. Weezy and Benno again.
This is a classic.
This is a classic video right here.
Thomas and I were just off spawn and we just saw this and we were both like so hyped.
I think this was the best moment for playing competitive that can happen.
Both won.
Queasy
Wow.
does knock one, but then
Queasy
trolls.
re-edits on him.
He
No.
trolls. No.
Why'd you
And
do
then
that?
Benno chokes.
Is a lever, not a lever. A lever.
He has a lever over here.
Oh my god, I can't even commentate. It's so suspenseful.
What is going on right here, boys?
Well, yeah. The pressure must be so high from Vino right here. I'm not gonna lie. And then the wall that doesn't. There's a second. Oh, that is hard to watch. The wall doesn't place.
And then the reaction, that reaction is so good. I love that reaction.
Oh, I'm so happy for Cammy, man.
Look at the celebration. Wow. They just won it. They know they won it.
Did you do this?
Yeah,
Yes.
easy. Easy peasy, you know me, my name is Henty V and this is Trashy.
Yeah.
This is the Global Championship.
The best players in the world all battling it out.
Insane matches already today.
These are the moments that make these players championship material.
One chance to make it happen, and they take it by force.
It is going to be absolutely insane. It's time. The FNCS is upon us once again, and we're ready to dive right into the action. With the Global Championships coming closer, this season is the last chance for teams to secure their spot in one of the biggest Fortnite events of all time. Teams, both new and old, will be dropping out of the bus tonight to compete in Major 3. In these first 3 weeks, players have to battle it out and earn series points in order to qualify for the Grand Finals. The top 50 teams on the series point leaderboard will advance to this stage to fight for 10 crucial spots in the upper bracket of the Global Championships. Plus, this season's FNCS title, the Axe of Champions, and a share of the prize pool. In Week 5 of this season's FNCS, we'll have the Last Chance Major. As the name suggests, this will literally be the last chance to make it to Global Championships later this year. And there are only 9 lower bracket spots available for EU players. A lot of teams are still fighting for a ticket to Copenhagen, and they're not going down without a fight. This is the EU FNCS. What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome to the FNCS. That's right, here we are. Global Championships are on the horizon, but listen, there's still seats on that battle bus that need to get filled out. Now, of course, you know what that means. Major 3 happens, we have more seats to fill, more players to try and earn their spot to Globals. Now, before we get into everything, in case you didn't know, you guys should check out Legends Landing. It's a great place to watch Fortnite. Right here, if you want to play Fortnite and watch Fortnite at the same time, hop in. There's 1v1 and 2v2 box fights, 1v1 build fights, the Hall of Legends, and of course, a display case for the Axe of Champions and so much more. Make sure you guys stop on by. You won't be disappointed. Legends Landing. Check it out in-game. Now, of course, we have to turn attention back here to the FNCS, so I need help with some of my friends. It's none other than your analyst. They'll be hanging out with us today. It is Mini Miner and, of course, Vivid, who will be calling all the shots here. How are you guys feeling? Welcome to the broadcast.
Feeling great. I mean, first and foremost, Zeke, what's up, man? Mini, how you doing? It's awesome to be back with the Fortnite fam. Of course, there's a lot on the line during Major number 3 here. 10 spots still available for that Global Championship. These 3 weeks are going to matter so much, Mini.
Yeah, they really are. And this is only the beginning. I'm super excited to get right into it. I mean, Major 3's here. This is what, the penultimate chance to qualify to Global Championships. So keeping that on the back of the mind right now, just making sure that people are aware. And I'm excited to see who can get the best start today.
Yeah, there's a number of things we would like to cover. So let's just get right into it. Brand new season of Fortnite, season number 3. And a whole new loot pool. We got the MK Alpha in the hands. And Vivid, I feel like this is probably going to be the rifle of choice, right?
Yeah, a little bit of an adaptation required out of the pro players here, right? Losing the ability to use that red-eye assault rifle, but we still do have that red dot on the alpha, so it's going to make those long-range shots very easy to hit for some of our professional aimers.
Yeah, definitely. Now, thinking about that short-range aim is all about the shotguns. We have 4 in the current loot pool. I think a lot of the players will be prioritizing that Havoc pump shotgun, as you see on the screen right now. That is really the one of choice. But, of course, there's plenty of different varieties depending on your playstyle.
Yeah, and of course, we are talking about the loophole, and if we search through it, there are not many options. In fact, there are really none for movement, which is why these slap splashes are going to be a huge part of the strategy for a lot of these professional players. Of course, giving that infinite amount of tactical sprint for a short duration is going to play a big part of some of these rotations.
That's the takeaway, right? The key is there is no mobility here in the season, but we have to get into the nitty-gritty of the details, right? Mini Miner, there is mud in game, and I think like that paired up with a couple of little things will actually give you that mobility players are looking for.
Yeah, a little bit of mud inside of the game. This is something that we're not really used to seeing before. This is the first time we've seen mud inside of the game, and I like the mud. Of course, you can use it to rotate through the mid game, as we can see right now, using that slide and increasing the speed, and you can even combine it with some augments just to make that a little bit quicker.
Yeah, soaring sprints, how it makes that mud when you slide and jump with it. You just go so far with it. Of course, you are going to have to go over towards the new biome, a lot of those new POIs to make sure that you can get covered in some of that mud. And I'm going to be looking for some of the cool strategies that some of these players pull out with the mud. Of course, Mud Warrior, also, you know, being able to put you up to 150 HP. So it's a great augment.
Yeah, and of course, there's maybe like a couple little things around the map itself that can still help with traversal, right, Minnie?
Yeah, of course, you have those jump flowers. Of course, you have those rifts that are in the sort of temple area as well. So there is on-map mobility, but as you guys have mentioned, no itemized mobility this season, which makes those mid-game rotations perfect. They have to be perfect. They're so important now.
That's right.
Yeah, of course, those rifts, you know, they're being over by the temples, but also over by the temples, those temple vaults, a lot more loot around the map.
Yeah, dude. And of course, hey, you can't forget mid-match objectives. Now, this isn't necessarily a new thing, right? We've seen Rift Island, we've seen vaults in previous seasons. However, now the duo that claims them will be rewarded with points. I mean, to be able to say like, hey, you know, Vivid, let's go take over Rift Island, but now we're gonna get loot and points? That's huge.
I mean, it's crazy, right? It just incentivizes these players to go for these battles just a little bit more. Of course, the loot, it's always looking phenomenal, but you can't really just let a team get all of these points for free, can you, Minnie?
I mean, you'd expect not, but of course you do get points now for getting these Rift Islands as well. 15 to be exact, every single time you claim one. Of course, 1 per match, 1 team is going to be able to claim that extra 15 points. And not only just the loot you get from it, those points are going to be so vital. And maybe we'll see some of our teams maybe mixing up their strategies, particularly if you're a little bit lower down on the leaderboard. You think, why not go up for the island? Why not go for those extra points? And of course, that extra loot. And even the vaults, they get you 3 extra points as well. So it's not just about getting the loot, it's also now a points benefit as well.
Do you feel like these points are enough? They're juicy enough that they're going to make other duos kind of consider, if I wasn't previously trying to contest one of these 2 mid-match objectives, I might want to do that now.
Yeah, I think it'll incentivize a lot of players. You know, often we see some players kind of base up under Rift Island, and instead of just sitting down there based up, right, maybe they'll actually decide to go up and take that fight instead of letting that free capture come in.
Yeah, I mean, the points are what, a quarter of a victory royale, just under 15 points for that Rift Island. That's going to be huge for some of our teams, and particularly the more aggressive ones. If they're going up for it anyway, you might as well just get the points.
You might as well, right? Well, guess what, gentlemen? We have an interview lined up. It is none other than Archie himself. We'll be watching him compete today, but why not get into the very mind of the player and hear from him? Archie, what is going on, my man? How are you feeling?
Great, mate. I'm on. Yeah, you can see me.
Yes.
Can you?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see me. Yeah.
You look fantastic.
Can't wait. Oh, thank you, mate. Yeah, I've got my Tundra t-shirt on. Shout out Tundra, mate. The old org. Yeah, can't wait.
That's awesome. Hey, so what have you guys done to prepare for today? Major number 3, one of the last few chances to make it to Globals. What have you guys done to prepare?
Well, I don't know if you know, but I actually had to pay £500 to get a duo. I've been in Spain for 2 weeks having fun. Come back a bit late, wasn't prepared for FNCS. I've actually bought a duo. So basically, I didn't have a duo an hour before, 500 quid, and somehow I made it to finals. So we haven't had much preparation, to be honest.
So not a lot of preparation goes into it. Yeah, you had to buy him, but you did get the opportunity to play with him in semifinals. And of course, there's open rounds. How you feeling so far?
Great. I mean, I'm not really under any pressure. I didn't actually expect to make it this far. We've had to change drop spot just so I didn't, contest my org mate off spawn, like the Seti's in my org as well, Tundra. So yeah, we had to change to the other side of the map. But I mean, look, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys perform it either, of course. There's a lot, I mean, you could say there's a little bit of pressure on you potentially because a lot of people would not expect you to be here. You're a little bit underrated in the scene. So what would you say to those people? How do you fancy your chances today, of course, landing at Breakwater?
I mean, we're uncontested and I'm pretty nifty with the surge aim. Should be getting a lot of tags, and if not, just getting boxed. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Archie, thank you so much. Where can the fans find you?
On Twitch, twitch.tv/Archie. I'll stream every tournament. I'll stream everything. I'll stream my entire life. So if you want to come watch me, then that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, Archie, thank you so much for your time and best of luck in the competition today. There you have it. Archie, it looks like he's in the zone. He's confident. He's ready to go. And why don't we go ahead and talk about some of the duos now that we had a chance to talk to Archie. Let's kind of take a deeper dive into the ones we can watch perform today. Here's a look at our first 25 duos we'll be seeing compete. And of course, now that we had a chance to talk to Archie, why don't we kind of break down the duo he's paired up alongside Nipsey. Gentlemen, what can you guys tell us about this duo?
I mean, first and foremost, we heard Archie. He's feeling confident in the surge aim, and he talked about the fact that he's basically on vacation for 2 weeks. Not much preparation work has gone into it. And when it comes to these players that are going to have the first opportunity to be in a finals-like lobby in an FNCS, usually surge is the biggest struggle. But the fact that Archie is already feeling confident in that category leads me to believe that they could actually do well.
Yeah, it's great to see. A lot of people wouldn't have expected them to make it here, but they have. It's Archie's first FNCS final. And courtesy of Kinch Analytics, Archie in the previous round actually did more damage than Nipsey. So he's actually got something to back up his claims of having that good surge aim. I think it was 6,721 damage to Nipsey's 5,229. So Archie's primed up. He's ready.
Okay, all right, I like it. Okay, so let's keep this conversation going. We got more duos to take a look at. Why not go next to Vico and Pink? Pink, a long-time veteran in the competitive scene, but these guys are formed as a brand new duo here in Chapter 3.
Yeah, a lot of eyes on them this season, right? Like Zeke mentioned, a brand new duo that has formed, and Vico has been around in the scene for a very long time, and he has the mechanics that a lot of people aspire to have, and he did just recently win an in-person solo event, so he's got that championship mentality, but he's looking to find his stride in an FNCS, and will Pink be the one to elevate those aspirations?
I hope so, and I think so, because I think Pink is a perfect fit for Vico as a duo partner. Pink is very vocal. He's almost quite strict as an IGL in terms of his teammate, his fragger, in how he wants him to play. And Vico does have these tendencies to make these harsh and rash plays and rash decisions, so hopefully Pink can keep him from doing that today.
Okay, all right, so now that we've seen the first 25, let's flip on over and take a look at the next 25 duos we'll be seeing compete. Now, we just came from Vico and Pink. Now, remember, this being a new duo means Nebs, Pink's old partner, has had to find another duo mate, and he's actually paired up with Hellfire. Now, I'm sure you've heard of Hellfire and Refsguard. Well, guess what? This is also a brand new duo. What can you guys tell us about these guys?
Yeah, of course, like Zeke mentioned, Hellfire was teamed up with Hellfire and Refsguard were a duo last major, and even though they made finals, their 40th place finish wasn't enough to justify competing together again this season, so some switch-ups were made.
Yeah, of course, these guys are no strangers to each other. They have played before. I think it was Chapter 3, Season 4 when they actually played an entire season together. So they're not new to each other. They're not new to each other's playstyles. And when I've been watching a lot of their games this season, they're playing that mid to low ground layer so well. They're not taking too many fights in endgame when they don't need it. They're getting refreshes at the perfect moment. And I like the way they're playing. If they can continue that today, they should be able to find some success.
All right, I love to hear it. Now, of course, one final duo to toss your way. It is Marine and Kiro. Now, keep in mind, Marine is someone that has basically been swapping duos almost every single season. So what can you tell us about these guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy going from major to major to major and having a new teammate every single time. Of course, he has landed with Kira now, and I have high hopes for this duo because they have been so consistent, specifically in the Cash Cups this season. They made every single one of those finals, and they finished 10th, 6th, and 14th, respectively, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and the key to that consistency is that Rumble Ruins drop spot. They've been 50-50ing at that main building there all season long so far. So if they can hopefully get those 50-50s to go their way today, then when they do make it off spawn, they can produce some incredible results. So it's all about that off spawn fight, and I'm expecting to see more of that today.
All right, well, we're almost time. It's almost that time. We're almost going to be jumping into game. We have a little brief moment here. Guys, I want to talk about Siphon. It is now back in game. For a little while, we took a break from it. Now it is back, and we've seen players kind of practice without it, but now with it being turned back on, what are your expectations coming into the competition? Will we just see them kind of revert to always, hey, let's be aggressive? Or do you think maybe some of them might lean back into that shifted, updated, side-graded playstyle? What do you guys think?
Well, I would expect that a lot of the teams that practice without the Siphon were a lot more cautious on their rotations, right? And we're a little bit more meticulous. So I'm hoping to see that, and then they just kind of have Siphon in the back pocket if they need to make a dire play.
Yeah, these guys have played with Siphon before. It's only a small break that we took from it, so I expect no changes to their playstyle from what we've seen from the past, but maybe a little bit more aggressiveness, maybe a little bit more reason to go for those mid-match objectives like we talked about earlier.
Man, well, you guys have me hyped up. I am ready to go. And you know who else is ready to go? It is our caster. So let's get this jumping and popping. It is 11-2K and Jacob PR.
Ready to go. Born ready for this Action 11. This is FNCS Major 3. You heard them talk about new duos, new POIs, new items, and even the return of Sightment. You believe that I'm excited. How are you feeling?
It's that time of the season when FNCS kicks in and everyone is excited to see the conclusion, because we've had 2 majors so far this year that have been incredibly exciting, but this is now getting to crunch time. This is where the teams who haven't quite had the year they've hoped to had can finally start to make up for it. Game 1 of FNCS starts now.
The moment you have all been waiting for since FNCS Major 2. The time is now, and you see the bus path from east to west on the southern portion of the map. So if you look at that pregame interview, Archie and Nipsey, they're going to have a long journey from Breakwater Bay if they do not pull the zone. But Merstash and Tayson not changing up their drop spot this season just yet. So it's going to be a little bit uncontested, but a split drop.
Of course, this is one of the biggest changes across the map we're seeing. The reigning champions of EU, the best team in the world, some people would argue, Vino and Queasy switching up their spot, and they are being punished for it here in game 1. Vino getting taken down by Skydune, Queasy nowhere to be found. And we're seeing a massive switch up that the Alice didn't quite hit on, because again, it was so last minute, just before the competition started. Vino and Queasy announced that they're landing over at that Spire Tower, moving away from Kenjutsu Crossing. And here in game 1, it's not started off well.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have expected something like that to start off our FNCS. And you said it yourself, the blades aren't theirs, they go somewhere else. But from one fight to the next, Chari and Garrett just keep things rolling. And that's the thing for a lot of these teams. This is game number 1. You kind of want to feel each other out, but you want to start with momentum. You want to start with so much pressure that you're able to put on some of these other teams. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these early game skirmishes going out. User, Cheapo, they're trying to keep the ball rolling. A quick wall to deny entry from Deox, and this is where he's going to get that piece control underneath the zone. 2 different angles, and there goes 2 different shots to take down Deox.
That is beautiful from User right there. You saw just keeping his composure in box, making sure to take control. Deox was focused on Cheapo as well, and so came in from the perfect angle to capitalize there, and a nice beginning to the game for this duo.
Definitely beginning of the game. And you see his teammate, he's just go ahead, abandoning that play. There's no use, both of them risking their lives. But there is, I didn't expect this much action right out of the gates. This FNCS just outside of Steaming Springs. You got Monier and Mikkel just fighting it out here in a 2v2, but they have to be careful. You see Cammy, you see Seti over towards Frenzy Fields. They might not be the team that's going to try to third-party all in, but they're definitely going to pop some shots into their favor. The longer this one goes, the harder it gets, and there goes another team down and out in the early stages of game 1.
Yeah, and I was about to say before the fight concluded, that's not the team they got to worry about. They got to worry about Chexy and Ninsei right in front of them, because these guys in those kind of fights are so dangerous. And you saw how quickly they were able to clean things up.
Yeah, a lot of what we kind of predicted to go down is just getting tossed and turned on its side. You got Gobra getting taken down. Uwe's probably running somewhere because Hedra's just there at dominating another early game skirmish. This might be too early, Levin. This might be way too early in the FNCS to call it, but a lot of our superstars are already struggling.
Yeah, look, it's been a long season so far, right? There's been plenty of competitions between the start of this season and the FNCS beginning, so people have had a feel for things, but even then, right, it's like, you look at the names in this lobby, very familiar names to the EU region, but almost feels like there's a new era upon us in terms of just who the main players are, a bit more parity around the lobby. But like you said, it is still too soon to say. It is the first game, players feeling each other out. And I think as we've seen in every other FNCS season ever, things develop over the course of the season. Teams who may not look like the best teams right now can start to heat up as the season continues. So we'll keep track of things. A team that has been good sort of throughout the whole season so far, Seti and Cammy, both players been in top form. Cammy especially has been on top of his game, of course, just coming from winning the Gamers 8 LAN, right? So I'm sure his confidence will be on top of the world, on top of the moon, wherever you want to be. On top of everyone is the point.
You want to be high on top of the mountain as Nebs, he just gets tagged. Beam shields gone just like that. And that's one thing, Nebs and Hellfire, they played all 10 games yesterday. They scored 293 points, 39 eliminations. So it wasn't anything super impressive in terms of aggression and taking over the game, but you see that they have that blueprint already down packed. And that's the thing this season, with no shockwave hammers, no kinetic blades, the less chance of heal off, you cannot be making any mistakes on your rotations.
And if we're talking about teams to watch coming from the previous rounds of Qualifier 1, Malabuka and Thomas definitely have to be that team. A dominant performance in round number 2, where they accumulated 400 points, first place above everybody else. They are the best team coming into this lobby based off of this weekend's proceedings so far. And I definitely expect a similar trend to continue here today. These guys have been on an absolute roll. The chemistry is unreal between them, yin and yang in many ways.
Kind of toss in that they have their global championship spot already secured. So this season is more for practice, building that chemistry, and then possibly just making sure nobody is going to be able to land at that racetrack. Pink and Vico, they do not have their qualification spot. So this season, particularly these first 3 weeks, are going to be so impactful for not only them, but every other team. There's been a huge change up in the format. Surge Week is out, so top 50 teams on those series points leaderboards go directly to the FNCS Major 3 Grand Final, so there's no time for slip-ups in any of these weeks.
Yeah, you really got to make every single week count, right? It's not like previous majors where you've had a chance to have a surprise performance, but you do so well that you push yourself into a qualifying spot. No, consistency across the 3 qualifiers is so important. Cannot be understated one bit. And so if some of your favorite teams and some of your favorite players are missing from this round, you might want to start worrying, right? If you're not seeing them in this lobby, because they're going to have quite the task in the next couple of qualifiers to try and catch up to what all these teams are going to be setting here today.
Liking this team here, Blackshot Mixon. Increasingly getting better almost seemingly every time I do get to watch them. Mixon is now a part of that Become Legends squad. They already have the FNCS Invitational Championship underneath their belt as an organization, and Mixon's just trying to add to that. He's just trying to build on top of all those accolades. And to get to this point, they did it in a few games. The fewest games in the top 10, actually. They did it in only 6. They did it 28 eliminations, and every single game they played yesterday out of those 6 were all top 10 performances.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously joining Become Legends now. Become Legends returning to Fortnite, a legendary org in that sense. Mixon being a Polish player, he knows the pressure that comes with that. Big shoes to fill, right? When you're walking in the footsteps of Cammy and Seti, the Polish goats, it's going to be very hard, but it's pressure that I hope he can live up to. Maybe write his own destiny, write his own path within that organization.
feel like this could be the season for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you look at this side of the map in particular, this is going to be very interesting, Jacob, because with Queasy and Veno leaving, a power vacuum, you know, is opened up now, right? Who is going to dominate this Kenjutsu crossing area? It's not as strong of a POI as it once was last season, which is why Queasy and Veno have decided to leave it, but still a very key area of the map to watch out for.
Hero and Ryan showing the new jungle vaults and the rifts in action, and typically right before second sode, third one opens, that's when the cash begins to appear for a lot of these teams, and that's a strategy a lot of them will try to do if they think it is free. They go ahead and use that rift, they spot out their cash, and they immediately beeline it. Instead, they find Pink and his duo Vico just struggling a little bit under pressure from different angles, and they're just trying to add to that same pressure. It almost seems like they're going for their own cash as Mariah finds the one that they went out looking for in the first place.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. Good start to the game for Kira and Mariah. You look to see them jump right back into another fight, and I say good start, but Kira gets caught out. It's Pink and Vico in the midst of this fight. There's some other eyes on it as well. And Pink needs to be careful. He's caught in a box that isn't really one he has control of. And a large amount of damage there. Vico's down, as we saw. So it's going to be up to Mariah and Pink now to scrap it out for the remainder. Pink trying to focus on healing up in the meantime. And look who it is. Anytime there's a fight in this frenzy fields area, you can guarantee City and Cammy are going to be somewhere lurking. Is this going to be a third-party situation for them, or are they going to let the fight play out? Right now, it looks like they'll let it play out. Mariah and Pink now going at it head-to-head again.
Yeah, I like that from Seti and Cammy, though. They got their early surge, they got one of those refreshes, and they go ahead and just trying to get a power position on the map. You might see them build a skyscraper for Storm Surge later in the game, and they have eyes on this. You still see them in the minimap, so no matter where Marine goes, no matter where Pink goes, there is going to be struggle if they're looking to get that reboot up, because they're also in the center of the zone right now, which is continuously pulling towards the south, so they both have their work cut out for them. They're looking to try to get their teammates back to the game, but regardless, even if they're looking to play solos, as Pink, he is not done with this fight just yet. Quickly knocks onto the door, but disengages, bets against it because he knows that cash was there to get his heals back up, but a huge shot from Ryan. He's not done with it either. Oh.
Is he gonna have a choice, though?
Definitely need that cash lead at the bottom. But it's all gone. He got beat to the punch. Maybe you can... Okay. Found some slurp juices. That's a miracle. But I mean, Pink's still next to you, so what really can you do in this situation?
Yeah, and Pink knows he's low. He heard him get cracked. He heard the shields, and Pink's lost shields of his own. Oh, dearie me. Look how quickly things turn. Pink is now down and out. But it looks like the victor of that fight might be following him, because Mariah is now under the pressure of Mixon and Blaha, who very much understand the situation. They know there's a player who's just finished off the fight that they can jump on, and there's another team here as well as Diox and Cade.
This is insane, because Diox already went down. So this is a fresh, rebooted teammate thanks to Cade, getting him back to the game, and they're trying to make up for that lost time. You don't want to fall behind on that Storm Surge, even though it hasn't been a thing. Marine striking back, hits a first knock onto one, but unfortunately, the numbers game is just too much, and Cade and Diox, from going down in the early games, they have definitely turned this ship around.
Look, Marine doesn't go down without a fight. He is a fighter at his core. But sometimes you cannot handle who you're up against, and that was one of those times. Nebs and Hellfire here on our screens. I'm very excited to see how these guys do playing together again. You know, the analysts mentioned they have played with each other, they have experience with each other, but a bit understated, because not only have they experienced playing with each other, the best seasons of these guys' careers came playing with each other. Right, there was once a time in EU where Nebs was considered one of the best players in the region, and it was a season where him and Hellfire were dominating, and they were so aggressive, and in every single fight you saw them taking, you expected them to win. If they can get back to that kind of form, it would be very, very beneficial for them. Here we have Robab and Axels on our screens, and they're looking very, very good. So we're going to bring in Taco. Taco, how are these guys in such a nice spot?
Well, the big part of it, Levin, was just Robot Kebab getting full utilization out of this new jungle biome over by Shady Stilts. He was just taking over with the mud, making sure to get as many fast rotations, fast slides as possible, and even got an opportunity to open up one of the new temple vaults. And it was a bit of a risky decision because, as you know, if you don't get the right side, they're going to wind up rifting. But since he was able to open up this temple vault, he's able to find a key inside. And that key, I think, is a big part of the reason why Robot Kebab and Axe Force looks so nice right now, because he was able to get that upgrade over at the Hollow Chest, and they're looking set for game 1.
Thank you very much, Taco. That's a team that's really liking the new areas of the map. We're going to have Taco filling us in with updates all throughout the day. But right now, our boy Thomas HD in a bit of trouble. Up on the island, we expect to see them up here fighting for it. And right now, Malabuka not on the nice end of the fight. Thomas, though, trying to turn the tide. And he might just do that. Had Mappy caught under his stare, but couldn't quite connect as he was phasing through the ramps. And the fight will continue. Oh, so close, but a perfect wall placed from Thomas. And now we'll connect to a shot that really starts to put some pressure on Mappy. Will iDrop come in to save him in time?
I can just imagine Mappy just going through all that struggle. I need help. There's one on me. I need help. And iDrop is just sitting there, just capturing the point. That's 15 points that they were able to grab during that distraction while Thomas 8D was trying to headhunt his opponent. But now the tables have turned. 2v1 situation. Great shot on the Thomas, backing him up more and more into the corner. You see Mappy trying to go to a different direction, cut off any point for him to be able to escape, and he's beating him to the punch. They have finally cut him off, and now Thomas is going to have to think outside of the box. What is he going to do? And he continues to try to backtrack. There's going to be a lot of resources being expended from Thomas 8D trying to stay alive, and it's all for nothing because iDrop gets into the box and sends him back to the lobby.
Well, look, we knew we were going to be seeing a bunch of fights on the island all throughout this season with just the amount of points you can accumulate just for collecting it, capturing that flag, claiming it. And we knew we expected Thomas and Malabuka to be one of the main teams, the headliners when it comes to that fight. But here in game 1, it's iDrop and Mappy who have, I'd say, a bit of an upset here, right? You don't expect them to win that fight every time, but here they have done it. And so we'll see how their journey continues. And we know iDrop and Mappy like to go for it as well. Of course, it's a team that we will be seeing at Global Championship, so they're very confident, in good form right now. iDrop settling in. So good to see those guys doing well.
I like seeing Mr. Savage Deal do well as well. Increasingly getting better for every season. Wouldn't be a global championship without them there, but they have to earn that spot. It's Anas by himself. Scrap.
Oh, no.
A lot of people are looking at Scrap as like the rookie. Anas taking a huge chance, a huge risk playing with someone like Scrap. But what can you tell us about Scrap that some people might not know, in which Anas is putting it all on the line to play with him?
The one thing I'll say instantly is that people are right to be almost surprised by how good these guys are doing, right? Strapped is, like you said, very much considered a rookie, someone who, you know, was given an opportunity to play with one of the Danish legends in Anas, and you very much sort of look at it and go, I don't know how this is going to go. Anas's performances this year haven't been quite up to Anas level. And then you have Strapped, almost a newbie, but these guys have been doing very, very well. And the fact that they're even here in the weekly final suggests that there is plenty more to come from this team. Of course, game 1 clearly not going up to the greatest start with Strapped being down, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot more from those guys over the course of this season.
20 below, but they got themselves a bit of a cliffhanger on the side. You've seen a lot of these teams do, especially with this new jungle biome. There's a lot of different mountains. There's a lot of different things as you try to leave it, including Rift Island if it's right above it. Luckily for them, they have multiple ways to kind of rotate off, whether it's a launch pad or quickly go down underneath and use the mud. You heard Taco talking about it with Robob. You heard our analyst before the game. It's a huge tool in terms of rotation this season due to the lack of mobility. You combine that with a couple augments, some slap splashes, and you will be able to zoom across the map, but you have to be careful. It does leave you susceptible to some shots. Oh, Scrapped is down again. Those are the shots. Can Anas get the reboot? Yet again, there's questions we're asking ourselves. Jalen and Tweet, let me tell you, I am so impressed by how they're performing season after season as well. I was actually watching Boop's stream yesterday, and he made a bold prediction in his chat. Did Jalen and Tweet win the game? And guess what? They pulled off a huge victory. Their chemistry is actually insane. They're the ones going up against Xander and Lunex right now.
But the thing about Jalen and Twy that makes them such an interesting duo to watch is the fact that, like, everybody thought last season was like a one-hit wonder type of situation. At least for Jalen, right? Where people sort of look at Jalen and go, come on, Jalen, no way he's going to come back, right? No way he's going to make it to another FNCS final, right? Surely not. And so I think very much Jalen has that chip on his shoulder. Twy, we know, is a very talented player who has only continued to show us what he's capable of. Still very much needs to learn and needs to improve his game, mature in his game a bit, right? Can sometimes be a bit over-eager for fights and looking to overextend in certain situations, but a duo that very much is formidable, and they've made it here, and so that deserves a bit of credit.
This team right here, you're talking about Mustache and Tayson, they're a team that they missed a game during last week's FNCS, the first 3 weeks. They missed one game. They still finished in the top 5 while every other team had those 6 games. There's so many opportunities to get points.
Yeah, the thing about this game is Tayson actually just tweeted that his internet cut out. So Mustache is playing this one solo. Yeah, he's having some technical issues, Tayson, but I'm sure we'll see him. Hopefully he can get the internet up and running in time for game number 2. In the meantime, we're just going to have to see what Mustache can cook up as a solo. The fact that he's gotten this deep into the game as a solo, again, is definitely good news for him, but we'll see how far he can go. Archie and Nipsey, the milkman, on our screens here, talked in the interview at the start of the show about how they've not really had much time to prep because this duo literally formed an hour before FNCS started. And it did not stop them from making it all the way here. Like you said, an investment. He's had to pay Nipsey to play with him. That's very rare. You don't see that happen often.
And imagine if he can come place in the top 50 after series points, win all of that money back in the FNCS Grand Finals. That would be a good investment, and Archie can look back at that one, smile for all of his ages, but this is only week number 1. This is only game number 1, so we have a huge amount of action throughout the next couple of weeks that we're going to follow as Vexy and the Ghoul just trying to hunker down, try to put some pressure on a couple of these teams. They are 350 above the Storm Surge threshold, so for them, they just don't need to take too many risky peeks, just gather the information through the cones, figure out where these players are positioned at, and get ready for the next rotation.
Drop a map, we obviously saw them claiming the Rift Island early in this game. They've got that drum gun as well to use. Not something that we see a lot of players opting for the drum shotgun. But I guess if you have the mythic one, why not? Mustache, he talks about how he's obviously running this one down as a solo and unfortunately not able to really materialize into anything significant, so he will go down.
I'm loving this game. A lot of those players that may not be looked at in the same light as people like Mr. Savage, Vino, they are standing up big. They're putting some respects on their name, and that's what I love about Fortnite. Always, there are seasons where these players just rise to the occasion and really put on a show for us as another knock's going to be achieved. They do get zone pull, or at least most of it on that side of the map, so they can bide their time, figure out what that next play is before they make some massive moves. And Nebs, he does have some time, but not as much as everybody else. He's one of the teams, and I say team very loosely because he is a solo that's trying to rotate, and you see the augments, you see the slap splash, you see the mud, and what it's able to do to these teams that lack rotation, but Nebs might be in the wrong box. There's a player there. He quickly escapes, disengages, and keeps his journey alive.
Nebs needs to get to cooking right now because this is not going to be an easy zone to traverse as a solo, and of course, the amount of material investment he's had to use just to get up to this point. Yeah, you can see why he's looking for opportunities to get limbs, because they will very much come in handy.
This is great because he even has the mythic slap splashes. Get an extra 10 seconds on his sprint. As long as he utilizes right and not too many drastic elevation changes in this next zone pool, he could definitely pick up a huge amount of points as a solo, especially with only 23 teams left alive. Placement points are going to begin to set in. You see Archie, you see Nipsey with a huge elimination, taking out a full team, sending them back to the lobby. This is the resurgence we like to see.
Yeah, but what do we have here in the battle for height? We know people are going to obviously want to play for it. Queasy and Vino went down very, very early on, so it's almost a who's going to be the ones to go up for it and take it since these guys are out of the picture. Seti and Cameron, we know they're capable of it, but That's not going to be their primary layer to play on. But look who it is, Mappy and iDrop. If you know anything about iDrop, you'll know how much he likes to play for high ground. This is where he feels most comfortable. But this is where he's going to have the most success in this lobby. Still a long way to go until that final zone.
Getting flashbacks from fighting Rift Island. That could have easily been Malabuka and Thomas. So a huge victory for iDrop and Mappy, getting that 15 points and getting the position here is Robob just trying to go underneath everybody else. Try to go unnoticed. He gets spotted out on the tail end, quickly boxes up. Mr. Savage, Vidil, they have a much easier run. They're ahead of all the madness already. And you see the big Bush Bomb and the Wild Wasp Jars. They're getting ready for some sort of a sneak attack or to dictate where somebody's allowed to rotate with the Wild Wasp.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Savage has very much been showcasing just how much he's improved as a player of late. Always looking to be proactive in claiming ahead, getting those low ground layers free in front of everybody else, and doing that here in this game so far. Archie still up and running. Mr. Savage, though, unfortunately has lost the deal. A bit split up in that sense, and so now it's going to be up to him to put on a solo masterclass if he can. A Bush Bomb being used there just to provide an extra bit of cover, some solace for the moment. That's going to be really good for him because so many players as well going down in the feed as he sort of camps and hides out there. We'll see who he runs into. It's going to be Nebs. But unfortunately for Nebs, he's not going to stand a chance, but he will deliver a lovely little flopper there for Mr. Savage to use now.
Giving him some time to work with as he's in the outside of the zone. This is exactly what you don't want to do to a player like Mr. Savage. Give him time, give him information, give him so much flexibility to work with as he's trying to get into the zone. 5 HP, a dream finally goes down altogether, but the high ground is still under control from iDrop and Mappy. It's so late in the game right now, Levin. I don't know who's daring enough to take it away.
I don't know who it's going to be. It might not be anyone at all, but I did see on low ground Cammy and Seti very much claiming a lot of space down there, and you can see running out of materials, so now it's going to be up to them to make a play. They've made it so deep into the game, but they need something to keep them going just that bit longer.
The layer change, they have the slap splashes, trying to keep themselves full HP deep inside of the zone. Top 8 teams, they're outlasting everybody else. These are huge points that they are picking up. On the low ground though, Hootie and Tropex, they're doing a good job of staying away from all the madness. Archie is a solo. He has only one build left. He gets past them, but there's so many other players. He actually falls down. This is the bad situation for Archie. He's trying to make something of it, but he goes down. But he picked up so many points as a solo there.
Really good from Archie, but the story goes on. Shakos with a big a limb there and another one to add to the tally. On an absolute tear in this game so far, Shakos. 6 limbs, 8 for the team in total, and opportunities for more. Tropex scurrying his way into zone, but not much space. Gonna have to start tanking. Shakos picks up iDrop. We saw iDrop and Mappy looking free up on height, but Shakos has ruined their party a bit. Eventually will fall. What? Storm Sickness, unfortunately, not in his favor. And so now it's going to be up to Mappy to just hold on, because Tropex had no journey into the safe zone. And a game that looks rocky just a bit towards the end still finishes with a victory for iDrop and Mappy. The team that claimed Rift Island ends up winning this game in game number 1.
And what a big wake-up call for the entirety of the lobby. FNCS is here, and iDrop and Mappy. I feel like it all started when they made that daring play to go for Rift Island. Not only that, they took out Malabuka and Thomas. From there, I felt like it was smooth sailing. They had ammo, they had builds, they had everything that they needed, and a huge drop right here from iDrop to get a flank onto Cammy and Seti. That was a huge difference maker to take out only one of the duos that was left alive.
Look, you say you feel like it all started on Rift Island. I feel like this all started last major when we saw these guys qualify for global championships, surprisingly to a lot of people. And ever since then, we've seen a different level of commitment from these two. iDrop in particular, someone I've looked at, and you know, we've seen the highs and lows of his career of late, but ever since last major, it seems like he is on top of the world and starting off major 3 in fine fashion. A really nice game for that duo.
Yeah, a lovely game and a great amount of points, and it's very, very bad for everybody else in the lobby. Only the leaderboard will tell us who's in first and who is in last. Zeke and the gang is going to go ahead and break it all down.
Thank you guys so much. A fantastic game. And Levin used a word there, commitment. I love that iDrop and Mappy, they have that level of commitment, right? A lot of duos would come into major number 3 and think, this is it. We have to put everything on the line if we want to go to globals. To them, this is that moment. This is globals, right? They're treating it like that. They are showing us what they are capable of. And right now, Vivid, it's looking really, really good.
Oh, it's looking a little bit more than just really good. I mean, they pretty much got everything that you could really ask for in this tournament specifically. I mean, going for Rift Island, check. Getting high ground, check. Getting the Victory Royale, check. Like, what else could you really want out of an FNCS tournament lobby?
What I love about this duo is, of course, they've landed in Anvil Square previously. That was their home. Their home is no longer on the map, but they're still claiming the same area of the map just around Rumble Ruins here. So they're like, this is our drop spot. We are claiming it. And of course, that end zone benefited them so much. They were able to save a lot of those heals, save a lot of those materials on the rotates they didn't have to make. And that's why they were able to claim high ground so early on and just dominate it throughout. And this is just perfect for them.
Yeah, and you know, this end zone landing so close to where they actually land also gave them the ability to save the slap splashes, right? We talked about how they were going to be a pivotal part for a lot of these duos to actually make some of these rotations. Well, when you don't really have to rotate that far away from your drop spot, you don't have to use them, right? So they had them for the late game, which played a big part of their success.
And look at that there, using that mythic drum shotgun. He actually ran out of ammo here. You see the running out of that medium bullets. He had to use that mythic to drop down, and he did a very, very good job, iDrop right there, trying to clean out the rest of the lobby as much as he could while Mappy stayed up above. They didn't actually have any heals for the heal off, so it wouldn't have gone down to that because they would have gone down, but fantastic job from this team to have almost, you could argue, the perfect start and the perfect game going into this tournament.
And then just like utilizing those resources, right? Kind of like to Vivid's point, them just kind of being in that situation where they go, hey, we don't have to rotate. We don't have to do this. Rift Island's right here. Yo, let's just run it down. Let's go. We have this. That's exactly the start we want to see here in the competition. Now, let's kind of turn our attention to the standings. I want to see how things are shaping up after game number 1. So obviously, after the Victory Royale, paired up with the 5 eliminations, iDrop Mappy will be sitting at the top. Now, 90 points is a fantastic starting place. And of course, that Rift Island, just once again, those little things kind of chaining together the Victory Royale eliminations and now these mid-match objectives, Vivid. I mean, we could see these guys skyrocket if they continue to do this.
Yeah, huge out of them, so we're going to have to pay attention to who's actually able to claim Rift Island throughout the day. But a team that we saw actually play out into the Storm, who also is very, very close in drop spot-wise to where that zone ended, it's going to be Cammy and Seti. I mean, we saw them hanging out in the Storm. They were throwing splashes like crazy to stay alive and make that play.
Yeah, we saw them going into this end game with 3 eliminations, and we were saying in the back, we were like, this is quite uncommon for them to get these eliminations this early on, particularly when the end zone is so close to their drop spot. But I think they just ran out of materials. They've been very, very good recently, as of late, at getting those end game refreshes, being a little bit more aggressive. And you can see right there, it didn't quite work out. They both had 0 materials, and that's where they needed some of those end game refreshes to come in because they didn't get any.
It feels like a lot of these duos, right, feeling that pressure of now Siphon being back in, no mobility. How do we make these micro adjustments, right? And it seems like impacts are what we're going to need more of if we want to get those refreshes going. Now, heading on down to second place, Skydune and Shakaz. Remember, they got landed on by Queasy and Veno, who last minute, by the way, decided, Kenjutsu Crossing? Nah, we're good. We're just going to go ahead and go over the Secluded Spire. And yet, they still come out here in second place after game 1.
Yeah, they came out in second place because I'm looking towards that elimination column.
Yeah.
I mean, putting up 9 of them during that game right there, that is a huge number. It's also a statement, right? Like, first of all, obviously getting those eliminations off spawn is big for them in terms of confidence, right? Because when Queasy and Veno, the best duo arguably on the EU region, decides to land at your drop slot, you're like, whoa, now we're in for it. And they came out on top of this game.
Yeah, definitely. When you are 50-50 off spawn like that, you need to make the most of the games that you are making it off spawn. Of course, Nebs and Hellfire not quite having as good of a game as we've seen from them in the past, but high eliminations from this team. They did a decent job there at 11th place. I'm excited to see if they can continue that because they're one of the duos that I expect to see a little bit more consistently throughout the day.
And as you can see them right here, I mean, the rotation is going to be so good out of Nebs here when he's, you know, unfortunately left in a solo situation. So usually, when we look towards these next couple of games, we're going to have to make sure that we see both of them alive so that way they can get a solid game in. But shout out to Nebs for putting up a huge solo performance in order to keep them in the running. And a lot of these eliminations just coming from Nebs himself, putting up big numbers for this duo. It's it's going to keep them alive in the competition throughout the day.
Yeah, they're doing fantastic. They're always getting that cash in the mid-map. They're always making sure they can get the best loot possible. And it is quite uncharacteristic to see one of them alive. They're usually both together, hip to hip, fighting out on that low ground layer. So hopefully they'll be able to get back to their winning ways later on.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're both alive, this is a little bit of a different game, right? Overall, how are you guys feeling after game number 1? I feel like it's kind of what I expected, but I feel like there's kind of more to come, but I'm not exactly sure what it is I'm missing. What do you think, Vivid?
Well, there's two things that I was happy to see. I was happy to see pop-off plays kind of happen on the back foot of, Siphon being re-enabled. Let's not forget a little bit of an adjustment period for these professional players to kind of get used to. And then the second thing was, hey, listen, Archie, after game number 1 on the leaderboard, is top 10. So that's, you know what I mean? And he was a live solo clutching it up. So I'm excited to see that. Maybe a vacation in Spain is what we all need.
Yeah, maybe so. They had 4 eliminations going to the end game. They're playing so good. And let's see if they can keep that ball rolling.
Well, a lot of duos have to do the same thing, but it's that time. Game 2 is ready. So 11, Jacob, on back over to you guys.
So ready for game number 2, 11. Game number 1 was absolutely amazing. You're seeing the effects of the lack of mobility. You're seeing what happens when teams go for too much early on in the game. There's one thing I really want to note on is if you take note of that capture point, even with the vault, right now it is a 17-point lead. You take any of those objectives away, it is a 5-point game after 1. So it shows the impact of those bonus points.
Yeah, for sure. We knew it was going to be super important. It's why we're going to see it be so heavily contested throughout the day. I think the main thing after game 1 for me is I believe in Archie supremacy. I'm backing the Milkman all the way. I want to see Archie finish the day in first place. That would be one of the best things you've ever seen in any FNCS on any region.
I feel like that is what everybody right now is rooting for. Can he continue that pace? We'll find out now because game 2 starts right now.
Another opportunity for players to make their mark here in Major 3. And I'm obviously going to be having my eyes peeled for what happens at that spire towards the east of the map, because we obviously saw some big names going down off spawn last game in Queasy and Veno, and so we'll see whether or not that repeats or whether they decide, look, I don't know what we were playing at, let's just go back to Kenjutsu Crossing. Of course, there'll be other fights across the map we have to watch out for. No, it looks like they are going for it again. Here at the Spire, Shaykos and Skydune, again, in the lead in this fight, a 2v1. It looks like they've already picked up Vino, and so can Queasy do the spectacular?
Yep, he's doing all he can to try to just run around, go unnoticed, loot up what is ever left of that actual Spire. He's going to have 200 effective shield and HP, but he's going up against 2 dangerous players that already have a 1-0 lead in the off-spawn battle. And you see Shaykos make it the smart play, take away the high ground, force him low and low into the ground, but it does look like Queasy for now has disengaged, but there's still so many teams in his path of survival. It's going to be a huge question mark if he can make a reboot happen.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough thing for Queasy to achieve, but something that we know about Queasy is that he is one of the smarter players in the game. There's nothing too difficult for Queasy, you think. But it becomes a question, right? 2 games off spawn that haven't quite gone their way here. And we're used to seeing these guys dominating a spot. We're used to seeing them comfortable in their element, not having problems. Players scared to even go and contest them. And right now, it seems like all their power has been drained. And Skydune and Shaykos taking all their energy and using it to have good games, right? We saw them deep in that last game. Shaykos was going crazy with the shots he was hitting. And so it could be something that actually ends up being better for them having Queasy and Vino land on them, which isn't something you typically say about most teams or players.
They get their early surge. They take out one of the top teams in the lobby. Queasy's just trying to continue his run. He does have some good loadout in terms of he has heals, he has some shields a little bit in the slap splashes, plus the stamina and mobility. He even has that sharp tooth, and still finding a way to scrounge around the map for some more loot. Like I said, the only question mark I have is, does he even have Vino's reboot card? Is there going to be a spot to get him back in the game? That's the storyline here for game number 2 as Nevs and Hellfire, 42 points. They got themselves a good position on the leaderboard, and it starts with an uncontested Shady Stilts drop.
I think the last thing to wrap on for now, at least in the case of Queasy and Vino, is that it is a better start than last game. Last game, they just went out quickly, right? At least this game, there's a chance for Queasy to try and get them back into things.
See, already you can tell by the mini-map right there that it is going to be a southern pulling zone this time around. And just by judging by the half circle, I'm using my geometry here. I got my protractor route. It is going to be like a southeastern, maybe a south central style zone here. So a lot of the teams are going to have to prepare. But step number one before you can even rotate is one, get your loot, you get your mats, and then you look for where these other teams are because you also need to worry about your surge path. Okay, what are you doing? You going shopping? Got a flapjack right here. Queasy and Vino have won at least one game in every FNCS Weekly Grand Finals this chapter, and they have 5 games to continue that streak.
You think they continue it? Landing at a new spot, uncharted territory? They've never landed it before today. You think they do it?
It's just brave. To me, you can't just look at somebody not having that familiarity because players learn at different speeds. You know, you have Queasy and Vino that can learn the meta rather quickly while other teams are playing catch-up. But as soon as you do figure out that meta and have that blueprint, you see almost like a whole different team begin to emerge. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, especially with the lack of mobility. A lot of the teams that would either use the Shockwave Hammer or the Kinetic Blades as a get-out-of-jail-free card no longer have that, so they're suffering for their mistakes. So throughout the next 5 games, you're really going to be looking at some of these teams and how they perform under pressure, as Queasy actually did go back for Vino's card.
Good teammate. That's what you got to do. Right? You can't leave your boy behind. You got to ride out to the very end. Of course, Skydian and Shakos now benefiting from one of the key parts of this spot. Queasy and Vino, obviously, their switch to land here at the Spire will be very much questioned by people. Like, why on earth are you now decided to land at the secluded Spire on this side of the map? Like, what is going on? Obviously, in the rounds leading up to round 3, the weekly final, they were being coached by Rise. And if you know anything about Rise, who obviously plays over on NA, him and Iomzo land there and have been very successful from that spot. And so I'm sure Rise has probably been greasing the wheels like, hey guys, look, our spot's pretty decent. But even if it's not that, because a part of me thinks maybe it's not quite that, just because if you're Rise, I don't think I'd want to do that going into Global Championships. Like, I don't think I'd want to make Queasy and Vino land on the spot I land at. And so maybe they've just seen it be so effective for Rise and Iomzo in the past and said, hey, sorry guys, I know we're mates, but we're going to have to take that from you.
Yeah, and it may take Queasy and Vino some time because I feel like Iomzo and Rise have landed there ever since that Spire emerged from the ground as Murstache and Tayson. Same thing could be said from Slappy Shores. As soon as this became a POI, they have claimed it as their own. And you can see already rotating out of Slappy Shores because they know other teams will begin to try to infiltrate that POI, steal the metal, steal any leftover resource. You even see Queasy over towards Slappy Shores because there's just so much resources on that side of the map to kind of get for yourself as Archie and Nipsey, the story, the fan favorites here going into game number 2. Archie picking up a huge amount of solo points here in that last game. And this was one of my worries for their drop spot in Breakwater Bay. As the zone continues to pull south, as it continues to pull east, they are definitely going to have their work cut out for them, not only getting to zone, but getting past all those teams that are already going to beat them there.
Yeah, I mentioned in game 1, right, that there have been a bunch of events from the beginning of the season to now FNCS. One of those events we saw, right, was Red Bull Contested, where Archie attended, and in a solo land filled with 100 of the biggest and best names in all of Fortnite. The person with the most crowd cheers, the person that had the fans going the craziest was Archie. And if anything, that just goes to show you how beloved this guy is in the community. And it's the reason why, Jacob, you're saying, like, he's genuinely the fan favorite right now. Like, people just want to see Archie do well. I think the only person that could maybe rival him in that sense would probably be like Mr. Savage or something, you know, some superstar.
I feel like after everything that you said, what makes it the most true is how much of a smile you had on your face while saying that. You made me freaking feel that on the inside, deep down. And it's going to be really interesting to see if the pressure of the game is going to get to Archie because he is doing something that a lot of people wouldn't give him credit for. But if you watch Archie, you know he has always had the potential. And I think the same could be said for a lot of these newcomers coming to the game that are pairing with that experienced IGL. And I'm speaking of Scrapped here. No matter how anybody looks at him from his history, from his accolades, he is here for a reason. He is playing with one of the best for a reason, and he just needs a chance to prove himself.
Okay, you're talking about Strapped here, not Archie, right?
Both. I think it could be said for both.
Whoa. So, okay, let's go. I love Archie, but let's stop talking about Archie like it's the second coming of Tayson here, mate. Like it's still the milkman here, right? We're still staying on brand. We ain't forgetting the roots right now, okay?
Outside of the zone here, you see again, once again, it's pulling south. It is pulling towards the east side of the map. DKS box to box with somebody else. 1v1 situation. That's Rolls on the other side. Has to be careful. Doesn't want to end up in enemy territory. This Clownski's there. Right with him, hip to hip. That's going to be the secret for a lot of these fights, especially with a third party rolling in. And you see they haven't dropped down to that layer just yet. They don't want to become the focus. They want to let all that damage go to DKS as they put pressure from another angle. And you're seeing it right before our very eyes. From the bottom ground pressure from Clownski and Rose, from the third party from the outside. It's going to be huge for them to try to get this elimination before it goes to somebody else.
We have a stalemate here between these two teams as they continue to try to find a solution. DKS just trying to hold them off as long as possible, but once they decide to strike, it's going to be vicious, and he's not really going to be able to deal with it. It's so tough when you have two hungry players coming at you like a battering ram, and the potential for third parties to take shots and pressure you as well is so brutal, and eventually he will fall at the wayside. Grows and Clown will pick up that pair of limbs and go about their day.
You know, they made that one last a little bit. Almost unscathed throughout it all as Mappy and iDrop Victory Royale in game number 1. You kind of saw them take over that Rift Island, going up against Malibuca and Thomas. But what about the rest of their game plan? So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Taco so she can let us know how they're faring up until this point.
Well, Jacob, I'm glad that you mentioned Rift Island for iDrop and Mappy, because Mappy, so far, I think ensuring that this duo is going to be in an ideal position for if they do try to look for another Rift Island rotate. By solidifying these early Storm Surge tags, you can see the pinpoint accuracy that he's really able to acquire as well with this MK Assault Rifle. Just adamant at making sure that they've got their damage numbers high, because, again, if they do look for that Rift Island rotate, they'll be able to positionally focus on it entirely.
Thank you so much, Taco, for the breakdown, seeing how they're getting their surge and what they're potentially planning for into the future. Exactly what she said. They're getting that Storm Surge underneath of their belt because they know if they're going to not only go up for Rift Island and potentially fight for it, that's going to be a lot of time. A team like them will not be able to just get straight damage because of the amount of box fighting that does go on up there. So they want to prepare themselves for a potential chance at that Rift Island. And can you imagine if they once again get that 15 points? It's going to boost them up the leaderboard even more.
Yeah, it's going to be mental for their momentum as well. Oh dear, Mustache going down in feed there. Don't want to see that. At the hands of the deal nonetheless. That's an interesting one. Titan and Tropex spaced up themselves. Looking to capitalize on players rotating in and around this mega area, and you can see the Rift Island very much announcing itself to the lobby there. Always makes such a big entrance, doesn't it? And look who it is trying to claim it. It's Pink and Vico right now. And very much uncontested. Nobody really here to do anything about it.
Yeah, so many teams on the outside. They can use the zip lines to try to get up. They can use the rifts to try to get up. But they've already built themselves a base at the top of Rift Island. I do think it is going to go over to them, and that's going to give them some much-needed points for their game, and it's going to give them confidence as well. And you don't want to see a team with Pink and Vico with confidence and flexibility to take over a game. There goes some crucial tags for Storm Surge. I talked about the amount of time you spend on Rift Island. If nobody kind of points themselves out, it's going to be hard to go ahead and get any amount of damage.
Yeah, 100%, and I want to see a confident Pink. A nice little knock there. Right, the Pink is a player who we're used to seeing getting top 10s in FNCS finals. Last season didn't even make it to the grand finals. We want to see better from him this season. I'm sure with Vico that will come. Nicely done there from Hellfire. I'm sure we're going to be following their story, right? That's the other half of that story, right? Where Pink obviously didn't make it to FNCS finals last season. Obviously he was playing with Nebs. That means Nebs didn't make it either. And so a chance at redemption for both those players here in Major number 3. And the last opportunity, or second to last opportunity, as my friend Mini Miner would say, to try and qualify for the Global Championships. You don't want to leave it until LCQ, last chance qualifiers, of course.
Especially since there's so many spots up for grabs in this major. You want to grab one of those now. You want to sit on the sidelines, watch that last chance major, take note at some of these teams, grab your drop spot while you can. You don't want them to be the last teams to go on the lower side of the format as well from that last chance major. Esteno and Lushi, one of the skyscrapers on top of Mega City, has been claimed by them. And since the zone continues to pull towards the south, can pull towards the east, a lot of those teams that are positioned up there are going to be able to escape a lot of that roaming chaos that goes around the map from some of the teams either looking for a refresh, the Siphon that is now back into the game, especially a team like N-Star and Scram who are barely 5 below the threshold, bouncing above. Rolls and Klowski are the team on the other side, and they definitely have a little bit more to work with based off what we've seen early on in the game.
Scram just patiently waiting and setting himself up here. You can see QB trying to take a different angle, and their patience is going to run thin as Surge starts to tick over towards them. A lot more urgency now.
Good tag. Get him above the threshold. But almost immediately it goes off altogether. Zenstar does go down. Wild Boss Jar is going out to try to at least spot out where Scram is at, or at least move them all together. Delay his ability to heal in a situation like this, but once again, the zone has a drastic pull towards the south, so he may have survived now, but his work is not over just yet, because you see Krolls and Krowski, they're continuously going to look back. They don't want to let that free elimination go to anybody else.
Yeah, and to be fair, as much as they've done well to ward off QB and Scram, you look at this zone and how they're going to have to start to move now. Very much just going to have to white line their way to zone. So they're not necessarily setting themselves up for the best sort of end to the game, just with how many players are going to be congested on that side. And yeah, just again, just to enforce, so that if you didn't realize, our boys Pink and Vico were the ones that claimed that island. Oh, I thought we were about to see an absolute masterclass from Archie. Fortunately though, Nipsey is there to pick up the pieces, and so this duo's fight will go on. Oh dear, okay. Archie going down, Storm taking him out.
If he can get out of this, it's not over. Rift Island is just outside the zone. They have good heals. If Nipsey can survive this, he has a chance. He has potential to bring Archie back. But it all comes down to these moments here. Kaizen and Astral, do they let him escape? Zone closing, so it now is going to move up to about a 2-tick. Still enough time for that reboot to be a possibility, as Kaizen and Astral are not going to waste any time in zone. They want to quickly go forward. They have that mythic MK Alpha, so they do have an opportunity, if they have some high ground, to terrorize anybody trying to get into the zone. Just like that. Oh, man.
Wow. Yeah, that is rough. 1 HP and a dream that is quickly turned into a nightmare. And the same for his duo partner as well. Oh, dear.
Okay, hey, they have 15 seconds. The revive could get off, but it's what happens after the revive that is going to be concerning, because you saw another far pull for a lot of these teams on the north side of the map. It's just outside of Frenzy Fields for now. So you got to think all those teams that were slow to rotate towards the north are going to be in the best position. For the teams that are on that mountain outside of Mega City, timing is going to be crucial when you give up that high ground and try to rotate the zone. This might be actually a good rotation for both Anchor and Golden. Not too many teams in their path along the way. Same could be said for Merstash and Tayson, but that's just to make it to the safe part of the zone. They still have to go even further to actually get to where they need to be as Tayson gets dropped. So it's going to be up to Merstash by himself, and he has just 1 med kit and the whole army of players in front of him. And down on Surge, just keep stacking up the problem.
Yeah, this is not looking good at all. This was Tayson's first proper game, right? Of course, he had internet issues last game, so game number 2 is the game number 1 for him, and it's not gone too well up to this point. Mustache once again left to try and do things here as a solo, and like you mentioned, he's going to have a world of trouble to try trudge his way through all these different teams as he gets towards the zone. A medkit being popped will definitely help and give him some more time, but the options are looking rather bleak.
It's a 5-tick zone right now. It's a 5-tick zone. He needs to find some instant heals if he's going to be able to make it there. Slap splashes, slap juice, but he's doing a good job. So it's all or nothing here. He doesn't have time to pop the med kit. Storm Surge ticking in. Down goes Mustache. Almost right before those placement points get in as well. 2 not so good games, but they're a duo that you can look at to pick up a massive amount of points when they're back against the wall in the next 4.
Yeah, that's tough. I'd be interested to watch back that game from their POV and see sort of how things went the way they did. Obviously, we know that they land towards Slappy, and so maybe a read on Tayson's side, which made them call to go all the way south. Let's see what the decision making was. Either way, it didn't quite pay off for them. Hellfire, Nebs, doing what they do, fighting in boxes with each other and fighting well, fighting hard. And they've already got 5 elims this game. I said I wanted to see them reach the peak levels they did all those seasons ago when they once played with each other and had all that success. And so far in this game, it looks sort of like what we used to see from them, where not afraid to take fights on the same page and very much a threat to everybody in the lobby.
Take note of the order he used the heals as well. Instead of using one of the most valuable heals in the Slurp Juice, his teammate had 2 big pots. You keep the 12 slap splashes as well for mobility and those instant heals. That's what you have to be thinking always in every aspect of the game. As Skrill lands a huge shot onto somebody during that rotation, trying to keep himself ahead of everybody else. Blue Fire is there right behind him, but the heals. He needs to be able to get these bandages off, but doesn't have a ton of time because Zone, once again, is going to pull far away from everybody else, except for maybe 3 people in the lobby.
Skrill's a better man than me. After hitting that shot, I would have just went all in for the LM. I would have been hungry. You ever seen a dog that's just desperate for a bone? That would have been me if I was the one that hit that shot. But for him to keep his composure there and not overextend shows the signs of a player that is wizened up to their surroundings, and so props to him for that. I'll drop a Mappy though, their journey will continue.
This looks like a clean rotation here. The right side of the map in which they're on has such few teams.
Yeah, you can see there, all the way down towards the south, nobody really there. You see all the players sort of lined up around the zone in that C shape. That C section of the zone is so congested. Gonna be very, very tough to rotate through there. You're seeing players just having to time their rotations in, run their way on in when best possible. And you have to make sure you're willing to commit some materials as well to protect yourself. You see Thomas there trying to build around him and stopping for a moment just to get some heals off before trying to regroup with Malabuka as well.
That was almost dangerous as well. Malabuka went ahead. He almost ended up in a fight against Dexy, away from Thomas, where he wasn't able to help. Hellfire and Nebs trying to continue their rotation as well. You see a lot of these teams, they don't want to be stuck on that ultimate low ground, so they're building 1, 2, maybe even 3 layers up to try to get themselves safety away from everybody else. Even though you're going to get that safety though, Levin, it's going to expend a lot of mats when you need them most towards the end game, as Hellfire feeling that pressure from above. Doing a good job though of keeping himself stable in this position.
What do we have here? Look at these two in prime position. We saw them trying to go for a play like this last game, and it didn't quite work. They got caught unawares, so see whether or not they can pay off for them here in game number 2. Oh wow, nice shots.
Holding on to that high ground as much as possible, making sure that if anybody is daring enough to try to launch pad or rift or use any border mobility to try to get from point A to point B, they're going to have to go through them first. Jalen taking a little bit of a swim. Tweez right behind him. They're trying to go ahead and get ahead. This is what I'm saying. Once you get stuck on that ultimate low ground, there's so many opportunities for you to get taken out, and this is going to be a tough spot for Jalen. Some of those walls aren't even his, and he has no builds left. Meanwhile, smooth sailing from Mixon and Blotcha. They're high up in the sky, just terrorizing, putting pressure from above with the Flapjack.
Yeah, and I love how we just switched to the opposite of smooth sailing right now, because Seti doesn't have Cammy with him. Eye drop, and Mappy, they're getting in some trouble. They want to go back on high, and that might just cost them. We saw them win a game from there, but the play is not quite going to be successful 2 times around.
Blotch is able to get both. Vidil's there towards the low ground, getting a huge knock onto Twee. Him and Jalen got separated. It almost looked like Jalen was attempting to go for that high ground and third party when the timing was right, but they got separated, and that's Vidil trying to take advantage. He's solo playing right now. These points are so crucial for him and Mr. Savage. You've seen how teams were able to perform with the pressure in game number 1 and what it did to their placement on that leaderboard.
Yeah, Vidil's such an instinctive fragger, always sniffing out the danger and looking to try and take out players who he senses are vulnerable. Robab and Axe Force, they're still in this one as a duo, and you can see them just rotating on this right side of the zone, keeping their angles limited, but still very much on the lookout for opportunities to take fights. And Malabuka and Thomas were waiting for them to open up, and so a bit of a jump scare for that duo.
Opened up that floor and just see 2 shots fired at you from a bush. Those are the ones that are hardest to hit when you can't even see your opponent. It's Malabuka Thomas, no builds, no resources. They're trying to do anything that they can to try to use very, very little and stay alive. Seti's feeling the pressure from the high ground. All angles are there. He too has no build, and you're seeing what it's doing to people as he finally gets taken down. Siphon Matt's going on over. Hellfire Nebs, they have 8 eliminations, 98 points, and they're looking like they're not stopping anytime soon.
You can see all these players now trying to move up. This change in elevation, so difficult to traverse. All of these players already used so many of their materials to try and rotate in through these zones, and now everyone just fighting in the storm. Hellfire picking up shots. Nebs has fallen, and so the job's all on Hellfire. Picks up Axe Force. And nicely done, Elim. 7 in this game already. These guys are absolutely popping off, exploding in this lobby. And Vidil's very much done the same here as a solo for so much of it. But can he close things out? A battle head-to-head against Hellfire. He has the HP advantage, has the advantage in positioning, and so he wins the battle. Really big solo clutch for Vidil there. Not often you see a solo deep into the moving zones manage to win the game, but he does it. Wow, what a game.
Yeah, that was a huge solo play there to end it all, and he took so much damage at one point before this fight. He did a good job of not only getting the refresh, he got the resources for the heals in terms of med miss and that slap juice to keep him on prime high ground. And there it was. He didn't even have to fire a shot at the end. He just blocked his opponent's path to take the game. And this is the resurgence we were seeing the last few seasons from Vidil and Mr. Savage.
Mr. Savage fans rise, Vidil fans rise. These guys have made themselves a presence in this lobby. So much of fragging and being successful in endgames is about those instinctual moments where you just pop off. And when it comes to that ability, there's not many people better than Vidil, the German legend himself, and showcasing why he is still one of the premier names at the top of EU Fortnite. A brilliantly, brilliantly executed solo clutch.
Yeah, you're talking about legends, but there's only 3 legends that can break down all the action of that last game. I'm going to go and throw it over to Zeke and the analyst to give us a play.
I like that Jacob does not include himself in the legends. Jacob, you're a legend in my heart, okay? Don't ever forget that. My, oh my, from game 1 to game 2, it's almost like a completely different game in a couple different ways, right? Coming down to a single solo clutch. Many of these duos are thinking back to last season, right? They're thinking, hey, Major number 2 is all about aggression. That's where we want to be. And you know what, Vivid? I'm here for that.
Yeah, also, I want to give everybody a big reminder that, you know, you're talking about Major 2. Vidil and Mr. Savage missed out by 1 spot in terms of qualifying for global championships. So, you know, making sure they actually make it to the FNCS finals this time around is going to be huge in order to give them a chance. But, I mean, with Vidil playing like this, finding solo clutches against the biggest names in EU, I mean, they're looking good.
Yeah, I really like the way they played this endgame as well. They're actually rotating towards that front side of zone as early as possible. They wanted to get ahead of everyone else because they know there's so many tall buildings inside of Mega City that you can't break through. There's so much water around there, so many hills. You don't want to get caught on the backside, and they did that really well. Unfortunately, of course, Mr. Savage did go down, but of course, Vidil kept that going. He kept that same consistency, and that was why he was able to stay in the front side of zone and be the only person in the zone there to take out Hellfire at the end.
A lot of experience, right, over on Vidil and Mr. Savage. How long they've been playing together, how much time they've put into the game, refining themselves, really sharpening themselves, saying, hey, look, if we're going to go to globals, now is that opportunity for us. Because of that, they will pick up the victory royale. My, oh my, so many eliminations as well paired with that. I mean, 8 eliminations, a victory royale, a solo clutch. I have to see the standings. I have to see how things have changed from game number 1 to game number 2. With so many questions, let's answer a few of those. Nevs and Hellfire, I would like to point out, these guys, though they didn't win, they came second place, which again, the damage is done. You let me get to second place, you done messed up. But paired up with 12 eliminations, Vivid, suddenly these guys are hot on the heels of Vidil and Mr. Savage.
Yeah, and they're in first place right now because of Nebs' solo clutch in game number 1, and now it was left to Hellfire to actually do the same exact thing in game number 2, and he did a great job of doing that. But, you know, Minnie, you mentioned it last game, this team is usually together when it comes to the end game, and for a majority of it, they actually were.
Yeah, they were, and they were using those slap splashes we were talking about in the back. They had 12 slap splashes just on Hellfire alone, able to rotate using those as well. I think that is the meta at the moment. It's what we're seeing. A lot of players actually using those slap splashes to make those mid-game rotations and even the late-game rotations just that little bit easier with that unlimited sprint. And this is where we see them doing great. We saw them a little bit below Storm Surge, but they were able to get enough tags to keep them afloat. And look at this from Hellfire. Just the ability to make that play at the backside of zone where it all matters, picking up crucial refreshes at the crucial times. I love this one, Steve.
Yeah, and the playstyle that we're seeing out of a lot of these pro players right now is that when they're making a lot of those mid-game rotations, and especially those late ones, especially when we get to like those moving zones, you can see them kind of just running around and they're not really building, right? And it's because if we're in a zero movement, you know, meta, then you kind of have to do that, take that risk, which is why those extra heals are just backing those plays up so well. Because if they do take damage while taking those risky rotations, they just heal up.
Yeah, they're just waiting for everyone else to open their own box. They're like, hey, look at us. We clearly have no materials. We don't have much, right? You open your box, you goof. Now we're in second place, and we now have 12 eliminations. Wild stuff. Now, I do want to highlight here in third place, iDrop and Mappy. So remember, game 1, they got themselves that victory royale. They claimed Rift Island. Things looked great. Here, though, in game number 2, they tried to go for that high ground. But Vivid, it didn't quite work out the same way in game number 2.
Yeah, I mean, higher ground takes are going to be really tough without a mobility, movement item to actually get you up there. You kind of just have to build straight up and take that fight head on. So it's going to be a lot tougher. And we're going to see it right now, actually. Blacha and Mixon were the ones that had higher ground for very early on this game, and they do a great job of defending it here, but not without taking some damage. I was actually wondering, like, whoa, what happened to the team? I know they were so structured up there. That's going to be the play right there.
It was going to be the play. They had 2 builds. Like, guys, you're trying to go for height, and they had 2 builds. You can't hold it. Like, what's going on? So it was a bold play. It was a risky play. Blatcher and Mixon had it down. They had it covered. Unfortunately, that actually set Blatcher and Mixon back, so they actually got sprayed from the front side, which is what caused them to go down as it happened. But yeah, a little bit of an interesting play there from iDrop and Mappy, but it shows that they're really aggressive and they're willing to take risks.
I mean, there's a little bit of a loot transfer that could have happened, right? If they eliminate Blacha, suddenly all that stuff is theirs, and then maybe they could get something going. But again, with not much mobility, when someone is going to challenge high ground, it's a very clear there is this duo coming up. Let's go ahead and shut all of this down. We turn attention back over to the standings, and as we kind of touched on them, Blacha and Mixon currently up in that 6th place. Could have been a little bit higher, but again, that high ground contestation said, nah, everybody in the lobby, go ahead and focus on us. Thomas HD, though, and Malabuka moving up 30 places, Vivid. Yes!
Yeah, I mean, a game number 2, solid one to actually get them back up into the top 20. But nonetheless, I don't think a lot of people were even expecting them to be anywhere close to 20, maybe like 2nd or 1st place. So, in my opinion, a couple of rough games out of them, but good to see that they still are, mentally able to bring it back. And I actually love this play right here out of them. They were found the bush, took the fight, got a big trade right there, and it led to some good ground on the low ground that they can kind of maintain and look for some more eliminations.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Vivid, a little bit of a surprise they are this low down, but they were supposed to be contested, aren't they? They're supposed to be contested off spawn, and we've seen them perform when they are contested, but also uncontested. I think they've been contested so much recently that they kind of got used to that early Storm Surge tags they can gather. Now they're uncontested. They're finding it a little bit more difficult to get those tags at the beginning of the game, and that's why they're struggling.
Yeah, they have to make that shift, right? There has to be a little bit of a change of, what is our now surge strategy, right? And look, with Siphon back on, let's just go crazy. I'm down for it. You know, I want to see that. You want to see that. Let's just do more of that. But speaking of things we want to see, of course, it's more games. So 11-2K, Jacob PR, back over to you guys.
Oh, man, do we love more games. Those first two were definitely exciting and showing how hungry these players are for that FNCS Grand Final spot. But this is game number 3. This is officially the last game before the halfway point. What are some of the key things you're going to be looking for?
I want to see some of the best players in the world continue to keep cooking up absolute 5-star courses, right? We saw a masterclass from Hellfire and Nebs in that game, peak performances from those boys. But Vidil, the solo clutch we've just seen from Vidil, you do not see that kind of thing every day, right? A player does not just waltz through one of the difficult end games in this lobby and just completely tear through everyone like he's playing in creative and win the game. That doesn't happen every day. If we can continue to see those kind of plays, I'm gonna lose my mind.
I almost even feel like we took a time machine back into the old days of Fortnite with the lack of mobility. I'll get into that point in a moment because game 3 is ready to go.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Let's see who is going to be our leaders after this game. Game number 3. We've had a couple games now to figure out what's sort of going on, who's in some decent form and who still needs to warm up a bit.
I think a couple teams still have a chance to pick up the pace here. And when I was thinking about that flashback is just the lack of mobility, and it's just showing that the mistakes are costing some teams, but not even only those mistakes, it's how good these players are playing their original drop spots. But right out of the gate, we're gonna see it fresh. Vino, he has drum shock, and he has the MK Alpha, and immediately gets dropped by Skydune.
This is huge.
What are we witnessing here? Right before our very eyes. Gets the edit once again. 1v2. Skydune takes down Queasy as well.
Wow. What have we just seen? What have we just seen? 3 games in a row now. Skydune and Shakos have rocked Queasy and Vino's world, but this one might be the most impressive one. Skydune completely catches Vino with his pants down. And when it comes time to clutch up to save his team's hopes, he does just that. Wow.
I feel like everybody wanted to see it. You guys got what you wanted. A huge victory yet again. That's 3-0 off of spawn as Nebs and Hellfire are trying to get a victory of their own. It does look like they have 1 elimination so far, so Kefi is doing a good job of at least putting out damage while still trying to play a little bit defensive. He's going to try to go for that reboot. Piece Control is underneath his own, and he misses a crucial shot there to try to get the knock on the Hellfire, but the damage is still rolling. Kefi is putting on a performance here in the 1v2, and it's sad to see that third party is what might be what slows him down. They might though. Okay. I think Nebs and Hellfire have learned. They learned right now. They said, we're too low. Even if we wanted to play aggressive, even if we wanted to use our numbers, one well-placed shot on each of them would have taken them down. So I like the decision from Nebs and Hellfire just to slow things down, let him disengage, and then go for the hunt once they're healed up.
Yeah, we know these guys can make it deep in games, right? They've been doing that. And so you trust their decision-making to get them through. But it won't be easy by any means.
Axe Force is nearby, but from one fight to the next. Go down, just the players hearing it into the distance. You saw Skill just floating by, but it doesn't look like he's going to try to third-party this, so Monye and Mikkel are going to have the best chances to clean this one up in an instant. Get their eliminations, get their surge. And if you look at their points right now, this was a much-needed start to their game.
Much needed might be an understatement, right? It was the only option for them, really, because you can't go into game number 4 having 3 bad first games, right? You know, you want to at least have something to show off at the halfway point.
Doing a good job here. I drop and Mappy. They won game number 1, so for them, it's all about staying consistent, staying on that same path, and if things go wrong, they got to realize that they have a little bit of a cushion over the majority of the teams in this lobby. Now, these bricks right here, the snow bricks and the one towards Steamy Springs are some of the best brick on the map. Oh, just like Robob. That's probably one of my favorite players because of his name. Robob Kebab.
Robob's he's a nice guy. Roban, super nice guy, friendly. And as well, we've seen from him when he's playing at his best. He's a very scary player to come up against.
Using the new biome to try to save a lot of the heals for later on in the game. We've seen that in different iterations of Fortnite with the different items that do appear on the map, from the blue mushrooms to everything in between, as Hedra and Dexy looking like they're just putting just enough damage to have a feeling of comfortability when it comes to the Storm Surge, disengage, go to another spot, build up on that high ground, and repeat before they figure out where the zone is going to go. And you can already see it's going to be a south zone, and it's literally south right down the middle.
Probably going to continue to go in that direction as well, you'd think. Who knows, maybe we'll get a pullback. We've seen that happen before. That's not going to stop these guys from fighting, though.
It's just high card. Don't worry.
And that's the interesting thing about... You don't want to lose.
If somebody sees you go down to high card, that's everybody's probably going to go over. But you don't necessarily know which vault it is unless you know which players land at that vault. Because this season, compared to last, where you only had Shattered Slabs, Mega City, and Brutal Bastion, there's 2 more vaults on the map. It could be randomized between 2 of all of the vaults to get it. So it's an interesting investment strategy to kind of land at one of these spots, but when it pays off, like Blotcha and Mixin, they're able to get the vault, get all their loot, and now they're going to have a great rotation to the slower side of the zone on the south side of the map. And Hootie. Once again, a lot of these players trying to rotate. Even though the jungle rifts are a thing, makes the rotation easier, it's also very risky because it puts you in a position where you can take a lot of damage. As Astro and Kaizen, they spot one off guard. This is going to be Cobra and Uguay, the duo of them both, but the first one is going to get knocked. Cobra back against the wall. So much pressure with the MK Alpha. They're trying to take that piece control into their own. He fires back, but it's just not enough to take down the likes of Astro and Kaizen.
That was nasty from Kaizen. Clean, calm, collected, straight cold. Cammy and Seti here on our screens.
Yeah, I read that stat in my head otherwise. Like, it's saying, 44 players, half of the lobby, nearly half of the lobby is returning teams, right? But in my head, I read it as there are 56 newcomers in this lobby that did not make the grand finals that have a chance to really hold and have control over their own fate. I like that. Watch out, Mixin from Vault. Have an easy rotation, like I said, slow side. Very few teams even land on this side of the map, let alone get a rotation this early. So for Blotcha and Mixin, as long as they don't take too much damage, use too much of their resources, they might be one of the first teams to a power position on the map.
Thomas set up here in a very high surge base, but not one we're not familiar with seeing in this part of the map. One that I'm not actually a fan of.
You don't like racetrack?
No, I don't really like surge bases like this.
Why? Too slow for you, Levin?
Yeah.
I know when you play, you're quick, you're aggressive.
Well, it's not about me. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the time, especially in areas like this, like around the whole the mega area, right? Like, they're sort of, players are like forced to play like that, right? Like, yeah, that's your only real choice. But a lot of the time, it just ends up being trades because people just know not to rotate through these areas. Or at least if they are rotating through these areas, they know how to rotate, well with cover and not really be in position to get hit. So.
Okay. I can see the logic. We saw it in a couple games already, especially with Queasy in game number 2. He was able to sneak around Skydune and Shaco's Skybase at that POI. He was able to get Vino's card. So I see exactly what you're talking about as Kyrene Pings, just trying to get their cash. They were able to beat everybody else to it, so they are going to get some gold loot for Pings that might do just a little bit more than Kyrie here. As you see, he already has that legendary Havoc. Now they're just going to bolster their loadout even more, get any metal that might be lacked, and then you add on top of that the slurp juices. That's going to keep them healthy and above everybody else. As this fight breaks down to Boom, Vexy over peaks, takes over 150 damage, and is forced into a defensive spot.
Tries to go for that right-hand peek. Didn't quite get the timing right, and so doesn't connect, but that's fine because it looks like they'll still be able to claim the cash.
You gotta be careful though, because Skyjump has that high Sid Breacher shotgun. And if you know it's there, you kind of know how to play against it. But if you don't expect it, they immediately steal your wall, are able to put out that damage. And it's just like one of those surprise attacks with the Wild Wasp jars, trying to get them off of the cache. It isn't going to go deep enough, so it's not really going to affect Akira and Skyjump too much at this current position.
I like the attempt though to try to push them off with the wasps. You know how effective they can be. Annoying to play against for sure.
Just trying to escape. Tayson looking like he's another 1v2 position. No merge dash in sight. Can't even really see him on the mini-map, so he's definitely going to be left all on his lonesome. Third party even coming in, making it that much harder, but that's not something that's going to scare Tayson away. Not at all, as everybody's still fighting for the piece control. Missed shots by Tayson, but he's doing a good job of the continuous pressure, even adding on that third party. He's using it to his advantage to stay alive.
Yeah, Tayson has a lot to do here. Of course, Mustache isn't here. And he's up against Harley and Otenzi, who, even though Harley and Otenzi were the 50th team to qualify to play today, they are by no means slouches. Very much players capable of playing in this kind of lobby. Always very nerve-wracking though when you're the last team to qualify through, right? You're always sort of refreshing the leaderboard every couple of minutes, hoping nobody's updated to overtaking you, waiting to see when that last lobby finishes.
Melodi's back. Kefi did a good job of staying alive in the very, very early portions of the game. Not only that, but being able to get the reboot. You gotta imagine how much damage or lack of damage they have in Storm Surge, which is why they're trying to put pressure, but they're in the zone right now. So the longer they stay here, the harder it's going to be to try to survive. It's Anas and Scrap that is right nearby. Rift Island's going to spawn. Already Malibuka and Thomas take the Rift to try to beat everybody else there. We got iDrop and Mappy. This could be a rematch from game number 1.
I wouldn't mind a rematch.
Here we go. Are they going to be daring enough to go ahead and contest a second time? You heard the rifts go off. Malibuka and Thomas, they're trying to play defensive. Immediately boxed up on all the loot. But the thing that questions me right now is they didn't take that second layer. So if the loot does spawn, it goes to that second layer. But right now it does look like it's under control from both Malibuka and Thomas. But the contested spot is going to go over to iDrop and Mapping. You even see some other teams in the distance thinking about that idea. Do we become that third team there? Do we become that fourth team on top of the house? It's going to be really interesting to see how this one continues to play out, because it almost looks like a disengage is going on all at the same time.
I love to see a cluster of teams get involved in the action. Never going to say no to that.
See Archie in the feed, trying to keep things going. They're getting it little by little, but right now it's going to be contested by a whole nother team. That's Xander on the other side, along with Lunex. Nobody wants to let these 15 points go for easy, especially since the start of the game. I talked about it. This is the last game before that halfway point. Where you're on the leaderboard matters so much if you're looking to take first, but a quick box. Thomas almost gets a huge shot, but Lunex doing a good job of narrowly escaping what could have been a tragedy. Still not backing down just yet. When it comes to the advantage, you still got to think it's on the side of Malibuca and Thomas. Judging by the heals alone on the players that we've seen on the respective teams. Look at the mini-map, how many teams are hunkering in that position to possibly try to take over a third party. Once this one's done, Thomas doing a good job of taking control of every single piece in his path and continuously pushing that duo back.
Thomas is such a fun player to watch. You just know he's going to hit a bunch of crucial shots whenever he's in a fight, and he's going to need to do it now because Malibuca needs some time to heal. Taking a new angle, trying to come in from above, and he's not afraid to just knock on that door and wait for them to open up.
Back to the capture point. Mappy and Eyedrop still nearby on top of the house. Building themselves one of them skyscrapers that you're talking about. As the loot has finally been claimed. You got to imagine it's Thomas and Malibuca, but this fight was going down so long. It's hard to say for certain who got credit, but you got to think it was the guy pushing everybody else off of Rift Island itself.
Yeah. I think the big thing now becomes, where does this game lead for that duo after finding some success on the Rift Island? Oh, wow.
Just running through those builds like they're not even placed in the first place. Nothing's slowing him down. Nothing's stopping him. Robop looking like an avalanche right now, taking down anybody in his path. And that player towards the bottom is going to be no different. Robop and Axe Force looking like they're trying to take over the lobby. They have 4 eliminations so far, and they have the mythic slap splashes. That's going to be the biggest thing in the inventory for them going into the late game.
I'm liking the way this team is playing. A different type of zeal, a pep in their step as they move through these fights. Mixon and Blaha, who obviously we know are going to be somewhat influential later in the game. We've seen them trying to take height positions, but sort of falling off in the crucial moments, right? Getting contested, getting snuck up on. They're struggling to hold on to it.
Fight has been going on so long. We're literally off the edge of Rift Island in some of it. Koza's teammate does go down. He gets a knock though, so that's going to be a trade. Using a few seconds to heal up before he goes right back on in. Whether he goes for the reboot card or the elimination is going to be an interesting decision as he hears Xander quickly running away. He knows the revive isn't going off just yet, so he has a couple more seconds to work with, and he's making that safe play, ripping through the builds with that flapjack. That way he can try to at least pinpoint where they're positioned at before he actually tries to move in. If he even tries.
If is a question. Of course, they have got ways to go towards zone. We're still seeing so many different players just populated in this area. This is what you can expect. Eyedrop getting taken out down below. Malibuca the one to chase him down and clean it up. Look at that inventory, man. That looks silly.
Let me ask you a question. What is your pick? What is the 11-2K pick in terms of the Sharp Tooth and the Havoc? Or is it situational?
It just depends on the day, how I'm feeling, man.
Okay.
Depends on the day. Depends on how I'm feeling. But who cares about me, man? I'm not important. I'm rubbish. You don't want to do what I'm doing. That don't matter. You want to do what these guys are doing. Maybe not Straps, because Straps is below Surge. So you don't want to do what he's doing when it comes to Surge.
You know, every time I feel like we're not seeing Archie, we haven't talked about him enough, in comes Archie. Finds that elimination and the Rift to try to keep themselves going. They have 2 so far. But you could tell, because the early portions of their game, you saw them go down, you saw them try to take that slow rotation, they're going to be suffering from Surge. They need to figure out where each time they're going to try to get above that threshold, and there's another one in the replay. That's the first elimination of the duo, taking down a Nas. Another South. This is scary.
Yeah, because this terrain is not easy to traverse, right? The sort of hilly, sort of mountainy terrain. When you ain't got any movement, you just got to time yourself running in. That can be real tough. Gonna use the ridges and use the rivers as best as you can. try close that distance. That will probably be your best bet.
And it's going to be like really telling, because in this situation, if you're a team like Malibuca and Thomas, you simply just want to focus on the rotation, especially your 283 above the damage threshold. You just want to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. The problem is there's so many teams in the lobby that are suffering from Storm Surge, they cannot make a simple rotation. They have to go for damage, because by the time they get to zone regardless, they're going to be down on Surge, having to look for it anyway. Even Malibuca and Thomas falling below where they were just moments ago.
Yeah, had to use a bunch of materials just to stay alive, and they didn't even get that much distance on the rotation.
From a victory in the last game, Dion Savage, 64, below the damage threshold. I say that, though, without even having a worry, because this team knows how to find damage in a distance. They know how to box up next to you and find damage when it's needed most. So for them, they spotted Nipsey. Nipsey's by himself, and look at Vidil going. He sees that as a green light. Shots being fired off. Nipsey doing a good job of being slippery as can be. Almost going through unscathed, especially knowing that everybody still has to continue their rotation. So spending time fighting into the zone is not going to be the most advantageous play for anybody involved.
Yeah, Nipsey barely getting away. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how he managed to, but he did regardless. Savage and Vidil, though, their pursuit of a fight will continue. They need to deal some damage for Surge. Savage trying to take a different angle to Vidil now as they pincer in on DKS and Vox.
Really can't give up now. Not a lot of time. One more tick to Storm Surge. Mr. Savage gonna go down. Vidil's already out from a victory in the last game to not a single placement point in the next. That is how chaotic and destructive these games can be without mobility, especially if you don't plan ahead at every stage of the game. As Robob and Axe Force have did just enough planning to keep themselves above the damage threshold for eliminations. A great loadout as well. And the one thing I'll keep talking about is those mythic slap splashes, the unlimited standable for a longer duration than anything else.
And you can see their priority as well, where they're choosing to move through the zone. They're sort of using this mountain as some extra cover. Fire Bro up above. You know how dangerous Fire Bro can be?
I'm lucky I'm not in his region. I probably wouldn't even queue up the same time as him.
We'll see how long they can stay up here, though.
The high ground.
Yeah.
That's my excuse. That's my excuse. The region's holding me back. Seti and Cammy. Low ground. And this is like a familiar spot for a team like Seti and Cammy. With rotation, without rotation, this is their play style. They stay away from everything else. They usually like to stay to the front side of the zone, which is why they're making an immediate rotation all the way once again towards that low ground. They're just going around the mountain before they climb up it once again. They're just trying to bypass anybody's lines of sight.
Yeah, that was a really nice rotation. They saved so many materials there in a zone where a bunch of people are going to have to use a lot of their materials. Pink, Vico looking to try to do similar, but opting for a different position, and Pink's done well just to force that team away for a moment. A nice shot as the journey continues, but as they inch closer and closer towards the zone, they're going to have to stop for a moment, take a break, invest some materials, because there's so many players around them. It was getting quite hectic up there.
Yeah, the Kings of the high ground moments ago literally just got taken out. That fight to try to hold it might not have been as worth it as we once thought, especially with the zone pulling away towards Steamy Springs. You're going to have to jump off your high horse regardless, as Malibuca is just using some acrobatics to just maintain what sense of high ground that he does have, leading the path for him and Thomas to try to get ahead of everybody else. As they continue to look back, they're trying to spot anybody out that might be a free elimination and a much-needed source of materials in this endgame.
Yeah, Robot by Axe Force. They're going to be the ones that hold the keys to height, and looking down on everybody in the lobby, a focus on just trying to stay ahead. Cammy and Seti, we obviously know how effectively they can rotate, and I think it's testament to that how many materials Cammy has left. Now even looking up for height, maybe a chop opportunity, and that might have just costed them. And as I say that, Seti is going to be the one to fall. Cammy did his best to try and return fire, but ultimately there, a lapse in communication, a lapse in focus, not on the same page, and it cost them dearly.
cost them so much, but now it's Cammy's time to try to make up for it. Finds that first elimination onto Thomas HD, leaving Malibuca by himself as well. Into the top 11 we go, and Cammy, he has some time. If he can get that slurp juice, Zone is pulling back. He could be healthy in an instant as Malibuca out of shields. Now he's looking down, out of builds as well, trying to catch somebody off guard to get that refresh. There's so many players stuck down there, but he's not going to slide down that mountain because it's not time. Cammy is doing everything he can to pick up these points.
I feel like we've seen this in so many of these games. The Zone sliding across a mountain, forcing people beneath just to try and fight it out to survive. And so many people getting caught out as a result. Hati now having to drop down, only 3 builds, and now just a 2, and a shotgun shot needed, but it won't connect. Cammy though, still trying to stay alive in this one and needs that shot, and so he'll hit it. That's what Cammy does. And he needs to start going on a rampage.
That was instantaneous with the slurp juice. It's like he read the play a mile away to keep himself healthy. Pete, once again, popping the slurp juice as well. Doesn't really have anything onto the med miss as he's trying to go ahead and save as many of these resources as possible. Goes down even one more layer from Vokes and DKS to try to stay alive, but the inevitable is about to happen. He ends up in a 2v1. He goes down, but at least he gets a top 5 for his worries.
Cammy still alive in this game. We've seen solo clutches today, and he's looking to be the next one to join the list, but unfortunately, there's going to be Skivvy that takes him out. Axe Force and Robab, we saw them smooth sailing during those moving zones on height, and they're still there, running all materials, and now setting up to try and win this final 2v2.
You can already see with the weapons and the loadout that they just switched around, Robob is going to put the pressure. Axe Force with the Heisted Breacher is going to be the one trying to go in, stop that heal off. First shot's going to be fired. A massive blow from Axe Force as he continues to back down his opponent. He's doing everything by himself in this situation, but finally he goes down. That is not the best because now Siphon gets picked up, keeping DKS on the low ground alive much longer, but Robob has almost every heal in the book, and both mythic and regular variations of the slap splashes, men missed on the other side, is all DKS has. He's searching for anything, some sort of treasure left behind from a fallen enemy. The med miss has finally run out. Robob has this one in the bag as DKS runs out of time.
Brilliantly done from the Swedes. A nice victory royale to pick up a game here at the halfway point. Robab and Axe Force doing the business. Smooth sailing throughout the game. At different points we saw them, we tracked their journey, and they looked good. But I didn't know they were looking this good. Picking up the win is very, very nice for them here.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the win that is exciting, it's the amount of eliminations they were able to pick up in the process, which actually gave them all this loot. And there was a moment of pause toward the end game. You saw them dropping weapons, the Heisted Breacher going on over to Axe Force, the heals going on over to Robob. They knew exactly what to do in that 2v2 situation, and they played it perfect.
Yeah, nicely done from that duo, but so much all across the board in that game that we're gonna have to track and take a look at. We saw so many different teams falling at different points. I think the big thing here, right, is we're looking as we head into the halfway point, which teams have finally started to step up. And I still feel like there's a couple that we're gonna be looking at going, hold on a minute, we're 3 games in and you're yet to really make an impact here in this lobby. Guys like Robab, guys like Axe Force, they're gonna be there to step up if the others will not and take their opportunity. Once again, a very, very big game for the Swedes.
Yeah, and you saw the amount of spacings players jumped up after last game alone. Some 20, some 30. With game 3 done and over with, let's see who else jumped up the leaderboard.
Thank y'all so much. My, oh my. As Levin pointed out, and I think this is a fantastic point, we are halfway through day number 1 here in EU. And remember, we're playing a set of weeks where we're earning a total number of points, and then top 50 will go into grand finals. So really, duos, they have to start performing well if they want to find themselves in the finals later on. But as we shift back over to the winners, Robab, Axe Force, man, you know, Vivid, when you look up on high ground, you know, you're setting your cam, you challenge them, they say nope. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe they've burned through some resources. And then Robab's like, yeah, I've got like 2 sets of splashes, you know, I've got a chug, like, I'm good to go, bro. Let's go in a heal off.
Yeah, for a majority of this game, right, they were able to just chill up on higher ground and kind of just build out. But there was a moment, like Zeke mentioned, where Cammy and Seti looked poised to actually take it as they did find themselves ahead of zone. They looked back, almost chopped them out, but Robob and Axforce were just way too hot in terms of recognizing what was happening very, very quickly, and were able to just make sure they stayed up on the higher ground. And the one thing that I loved watching this duo is that they actually kept interchanging who was holding this flapjack rifle throughout this endgame based on who was going to be the more aggressive one, and it just worked so well for them, Minnie.
And the reason why they were just able to hold it for so long was Axforce. You can see it in his inventory. He actually has that Breacher shotgun, that exotic Breacher, which breaks builds instantly. And combined with the spray from Robab throughout the whole of that endgame with the flapjack, he can just keep spraying non-stop, non-stop. And that's why Cammy and Seti had such a difficult time going all the way up on height. Nobody stood a chance. And even as you mentioned there, Vivid, the little swap to Axforce for that flapjack rifle, he actually was able to drop down and use that later on. Of course, Robab had all the heals in the world. That was a textbook performance on how to play high this season.
The coordinated assault, right? Hey, I'm right here. You see me? You got eyes up there? This wall. Flapjack down. Crazy stuff. Let's take a look at the standings. Now that we're halfway through just day number 1 here, this is where things are going to start to cement themselves just a little bit. Right now, it's more important than ever to step up and try and get those series points. You're trying to aim as high up on that leaderboard as you possibly can. Now, of course, we saw a couple victory royales come out. Maybe this one will be enough for Robab and Axforce to finally jump up. Last game, we saw a duo move up 30 places, Vivid. Could this be the game for these guys?
I think they got to be in first place right now. I mean, we talked about last game. They had so many eliminations. This one, they just followed up that performance as well. But I want to give a big shout out to the solo clutches that we've seen game after game after game. And this time around, it was actually Cammy's turn.
Yeah, Cammy with a great solo clutch right there. We talked about them trying to go for that height, trying to make that big, bold play. And when they went down, we thought, oh no, this is a disaster. We can see them, though, in 5th place in the standings. And as we predicted, of course, Robab and Axforce all the way up on top.
You'll love to see it. 183 points. The Victory Royale there, paired up with all of those eliminations. My, oh my. It just takes one good game, and suddenly you can find yourself fighting for that top 10. Now, guess what? We actually have something really special here. We have an interview with a member from our community now. Dion, first off, welcome to the broadcast. Now, I'm sorry, I don't speak Dutch, so I can't pronounce your YouTube channel name. Can you just say it?
Yeah, of course. In Dutch, it is te veel gevraagd. And do you know what it is in English? Can you guess?
No.
No.
It is too much asked in English.
Yeah, listen, I would have pronounced that so wrong, but hey, it's fantastic to have you here. How are you enjoying the first 3 games on the day of the FNCS so far?
Bro, the tension is so high. The skill is also so high. I love to see it. It's just great. It's great. Yeah.
Of course, brand new season as well. Fortnite Wilds is out. What's been sort of like your favorite thing about it? New POIs, new weapons, and sorts like that?
Yeah, the map looks really great. The jungle in the middle, it looks great. And also the cloak gauntlets, I love to be invisible. So that's one of the most favorite things for me in the game. But one thing I don't really like is I would love more movement. That's the only thing.
More movement. Well, of course, we do have movement in the form of rifts. Now, that rift island actually does spawn in throughout the game. Of course, in FNCS, you actually get 15 points for claiming that rift island. If you were in this lobby, if you were playing in this FNCS, would you take the risk? Would you go up to that rift island and try and claim the points?
Oh, the risk is maybe too high. If you die, it's not worth it, the 15 points. So I would play more careful and not go for it. But if you get it, it's great. You get loot, you get everything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have anything to say to the Dutch community out there?
Keep up the good work. Keep going for the wins, for the kills, and go grind the game, because we only have one duo right now, the fully Dutch duo, who is doing great, Kiro and Marijn. Kiro and Marijn, if I pronounced good. Just keep it up. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, man, where can people find you guys? Because I can't say the name, but where can they find you?
Well, you can find us te veel gevraagd. If you can, you can also go to Google Translate and search up too much asked in Dutch, and that's the word you have to look up, and you'll find us on Instagram, every platform, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere.
Perfect, man. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. We appreciate it, and we hope you enjoy more of the action coming up.
Yes, thank you.
There you go. You'll love to see it. Well, guess what? We're jumping right back into the action. This is game number 4 of the FNCS.
Let's just hop right into game number 4. No more waiting. Let's just do it.
It's time, game number 4, the first game of the half. And this is where teams, even though they didn't get like an extended break between games 3 and games 4, you needed to have taken every single second. Think about every single play and learn what changes you are going to make. Even if some might say first place is out of reach, you still want as many series points underneath your belt as possible because it's the top 50 who advance.
And off the bat, just what we want to be seeing. The battle between Skydune and Shakos and Queasy and Vino here at the secluded Spire. It has been a quick 3-0 for Shakos and Skydune. The first time this whole chapter that we've seen Queasy and Vino be 3-0'd. And I think it's starting to get to them mentally because Vino's actually changed his name to King of the Castle. Cheers for that one, mate. Really appreciate that one. In any case, we'll see whether this time they will find some success.
I think so far, with the amount of loot and resources they've been able to grab towards the low ground, they put themselves into a decent position, but too much damage taken too early. King of the Castle, sharing the minis along with Queasy, just making sure that they heal up as much as possible. But while they've kind of bunkered down inside of that castle, Skydune and Shakos have went ahead and stretched themselves towards the outside. They're trying to get as much loot as possible. But in the mini-map, Levin, you see 2 more players trying to sneak up. This fight has lasted longer than any game so far, so this might be an opportunity for them to third party and clean up.
Yeah, if they truly are the kings of the castle, they got to start to show it. What kind of kings get run out of their castle 3 times in a row? No king of mine, so they're going to have to really step it up, and they start here. Skydune's down, but we've seen Shakos do well in these kind of situations before, but it might just be too much for him. Finally, these kings reign supreme, but for how much longer? Because it's Akira and Skyjump now jumping in trying to third party.
Yeah, there's no time to celebrate a first victory of this game. That momentum is beginning to build, but how do you channel it here as you're pressured almost immediately by another team? But look at Skyjump right now. All he has is an SMG and a loadout full of heals. So if they're able to catch him off guard, make him miss a couple of shots, he could be step 1 in trying to take this fight. On the other side, Akira might have to do the brunt of the work here if they're looking to take it all, but he drops into the box. I might have been eating my words because he immediately takes down Queasy, and Vino is soon to follow right after. They may have won the off-spawn fight, but their run comes to an end just as fast.
Oh man. Kings of the Castle, it's not looking good, my boys. Skyjump and Akira with the clean up limbs.
At least they got some points this time, because Queasy and Vino, they've been such a great team this chapter. 18 games up until this point. They've gotten points in every single one of those games. This chapter is the first time they've had consecutive games like that with 0 points.
I'm sad, man. Those are my boys. I want to see them thrive, and I want to see them doing well. It pains me to see them going down like this. But, you know, was it really going to go any other way? When you land at a spot you haven't landed at before, 10 minutes, and you make that decision like 10 minutes before the competition starts, you know, you can never really expect good things to come out of that. Look, I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to bounce back and, you know, give them a week of practice. They will probably be definitively the kings of the castle, but it really is setting up to be a tough season for them.
I honestly think that's probably one of the worst things anybody can actually do. Beat them off spawn, make them take the game just as serious as they had their championship run, Let's see a replay of Kefi this time around, able to take down Nebs. Hellfire went down immediately after thanks to a third party, and that's a huge change-up compared to what we saw in that last game at the same drop spot. Not too much going down. When you look at the drop map, that southeast or southwest portion of the map doesn't have too many teams actually contesting each other. It's more so what they're doing after in order to get the surge, in order to get even more loot into their inventories. Dexy and Hedra, they're doing what they can, but high ground is going to be taken over by somebody else. So they go ahead and backtrack into their box. No surprise attacks coming from above is what they're telling themselves.
You need to be careful because Cheapo and User are terrifying to come up against. We saw them in game 1, ripping through people. User in particular, right? Very much had the hot hand, so if that can continue, then Dexy and Hedra are going to have to be very fearful what their opponents can do.
And you can see like this crouching is so important. I know most of the community already knows crouching, it hides your audio, it hides from the audio visuals, but that's where you're seeing every single person close by. They're making sure not to give any bit of information over to those opponents, because that could be the same bit of information that does you in the end, as we got a little pickaxe battle going down between Gears and Scram. N-Star coming up and finishing it off, but it was just a trade between the two that didn't really have any weapons. And Chari gets that final elimination as he gets the piece control underneath his own. And that's the thing, sometimes when you get that inventory, you get that loadout, it's about just immediately bull rushing one player.
Even when you do that, especially in this lobby, it's not easy, right?
I don't think anything is easy in a lobby like this. Maybe landing?
That's the bitch. Even that's not easy, mate, you know?
Some of these teams, it actually does look like it's a struggle. There's Robot and Axe Force taking advantage of the new jungle biome, using every little bit from the mud to the new zip lines. Everything that they have is back on over this fight. Hedra versus User, now in a 1v1 situation. Third party coming in, so he knows exactly where Hedra's at. As on top, he did take a little bit of damage, but not too much, as he, especially since he picks up the Siphon. Both players actually picking up their respective Siphons, so back up to full HP here.
I've just picked up User for being insane in fights like this, so hopefully he can show me something, give me some entertainment. Would not mind that. He spotted him, and so he might just run down and just run straight at him. He knows he's right in that building. Yeah, he wants to fight. Claims the roof.
And the little barrels are there. He's immediately still trying to play into the box. Hedra looks like he's just playing a game of hide and seek. He's just trying to run every inch away because he doesn't have a lot of shields to his name. That's a huge difference, and a huge shot by User to finish him off because of the lack of shields. He was trying to buy himself any amount of time to go ahead and pop him, but User did a good job of just not letting up off the gas.
Nice attempt.
Happened to me before, so I can't.
Well, of course it
Can't
happened
hold
to you, mate. It's you.
I love using the kinetic rocks.
Yeah, but you're not too good at them.
Not too good at much.
I mean, I don't disagree. Steno and Lush up here in Mega City. Very much going to be looking for their surge tags as they base up above.
Mega City's the easiest one, kind of create the sky. They're half built for you already. Just building on top of the helipad, just trying to get even higher up. And you're kind of right. A lot of teams are kind of conditioned, especially that Mega City POI, where it's already natural buildings. You got that mountain towards the left side of it. They know how to rotate without really going through Mega City. And it's a must because there are so many teams. If you dodge one, you can't dodge them all at the end of the day. Thomas at Malibuca, still at the racetrack. That's because they get everything they need in terms of their loadout. Metal, brick, wood. You can see that they have all the heals that they can ask for. And then the high ground in the center of the map, where in theory, a lot of teams will have to rotate through. Okay. Skyby and Corny at the top of the mountain, but there's so many vaults around the map. Taco, what's going down around this good loot?
Well, that's the thing about the vaults, Jacob, is that everybody knows that those additional 3 points can definitely stack up over time if you're able to consistently collect the same vaults. And here at Mega City, when there's several different teams potentially contesting the NPCs that spawn, because you've got to deal with high card first, but you don't necessarily know exactly where he's going to land at. So for Kearney and Skyby, fortunately, they were able to take out high card, secure that key vault, get those additional 3 points and all the mythic loot that's contained inside of that vault as well.
Interesting to see how it'll play out for him at the end of the day. We've seen, to start the day off, game number 1, that 15-point differential from Rift Island, plus the 3 points from the vault, made a 5-point potential lead into 15 or so points. I think it was like 17 at the start of it all. So at the end of the day, if you can consistently get those free points, you get the free loot without many teams contesting you, that's going to be a huge difference maker, or at least a little bit of a cushion that you can continue to build upon. Stash and Tayson in the distance, Camiseti. So many teams trying to make up for some blunders or continue to put their foot onto the gas and stretch their lead even more. Said he got tagged up just a little bit. He knows where that cache was just moments ago, using that big pot. Make sure he has a 200 effective shield and HP before he makes this rotation. And you're kind of seeing the effects, the combination of the mud, the splashes, and that soaring sprints augment to cover so much distance in mere seconds. Just outside of Rumble Ruins. Not too many teams contested nearby, so a lot of the players in this jungle biome are going to have a rather easy rotation to get from point A to point B. But something that isn't necessarily easy or hasn't proven to be so is this Rift Island. You're already seeing some teams make that early play for it, but it's the consistent eye drop and Mappy that always seem to find themselves high in the sky trying to claim those points as their own.
Good to see iDrop and Mappy back up here, right? Of course, we know what happened last time they were able to claim this, right? They went on to win the game, and it's part of why so far has been such a good day for them. It's why they're sitting in that top 10.
It's like one team is thinking about contesting.
It's interesting, right? Because this
either
game,
that or they're probably saving the Rift for later.
Well, this game is like a lot more quiet up here on the Rift Island, right? Whereas last game was just all chaos, all havoc, mania. But I guess a large part of that is to do with just sort of where it actually spawns, right? And the zones around it. Well, I'm sure iDrop and Mappy won't complain that there aren't a million different teams trying to fight them up there.
Just makes their job that much easier. Vico and Pink trying to do that same thing. And the trend that I've been figuring out is around this zone, Rift Island's going to appear. By the time 5th zone closes, 6th zone appears, it tends to move away from that Rift Island. So if you're one of those teams that chooses not to actually contest for it or even have a sense of shots in the direction trying to get Storm Surge damage, you might be looking to rotate as fast as possible towards the other side of the map. There's still a little bit of a 50-50 if you got to go west or east if Rift Island's on the north, but it still at least gives you some sort of a blueprint to follow.
Guys are giving each other haircuts right now, just shaving off the top of each other's heads.
Not too bad. Pressure from all angles. Watch on mixing. Not entirely two separate bases, but you see they got a good amount of space between the two so they can cover more angles. And there's a combination of augments that you can gain mud from being in a bush, but then you can gain HP and shield for being in a bush. So if you're able to kind of get the luck of the augments, the RNG flows your way, you have the big bush bomb, you can go ahead and use that strategy to try to save a lot of the heals as well. Ooh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not good. I drop Mappy, get taken down, trying to contest. So somebody possibly granted 15 points. But if they at least got that Rift Island before going down, at least they got 15 points for their efforts.
Yeah, I think they did as well. Yeah, let's take a look. Ooh. It's almost like he had no clue the guy was right next to him until the finals little moment. And iDrop did his best, but his best wasn't enough. Interesting.
It's almost exactly what I was talking about. If you don't expect that high-stit breacher to just rip through the builds, because even though it does do less damage to fully place builds, if you're in a current fight, placing builds in that instant, it rips through every single one. So he quickly dropped down, used that high-stit breacher, a surprise attack. Even though he still almost went down, it was still a great effort overall. Tayson and Mustache, they're one of the teams that need to make up for lost time. First 3 games are done and over with. They have all the expertise in the world to kind of not let that bother them too much. All they know is their backs are against the wall and they need to make up for that lost time. So I'm expecting some big things from Tayson and Mustache in these next 3 games.
Yeah, it's not been the kind of day I'd want, you know. If you know me, I'm a heritage Fortnite comp heritage purist. You know, I very much like to see the old dogs, the big names do well. And unfortunately, my favorite teams aren't quite delivering for me today, right? Tayson and Mustache haven't quite had the best of days, and let me not talk about Queasy and Vino, right? So hopefully we start to see some of those big boys pick it up a bit.
I wonder the implications of something like this going into the next couple weeks. Building the confidence for these teams taken down and slowing those players into their tracks. A Scrapped and a Nas, they're trying to make up for it as well. 443 above the damage threshold. Zone not too far away from them as well. As long as they don't become the focus of the lobby right now, I can see them stretching this run even further in this game. But being a new duo, especially with Scrap not having the most experience, you could see why they might have a little bit of speed bumps in the road. But to get to this point isn't easy. And so a team like that, riding on the back of Pink, I think this could be a good opportunity in this game to try to pick up those points they need. Storm Surge, and the situation is just not good. Lunex and Xander, even though they're shielding up, as soon as Storm Surge ticks and their shields get cracked, the team next to them will heal that. And that's just a sign of weakness, a sign for anybody to try to put some pressure to take them out, especially since they have to travel and rotate right behind them. This could be a potential fight between these 2 teams and a potential point pickup.
These guys are well ahead on their surge, which is nice. It needs to get into zone.
At least they don't have to worry about Storm Surge. They can take their time. Add in the fact that they do have the slap splashes, so getting HP won't take too much between the 2 as they slide their way in, but then they become the focus of the lobby just a little bit before pressure is alleviated. And you're kind of seeing what happens if you're a little too slow to rotate. User becomes the target of both Hootie and Tropix. They immediately take him down, and that's just one less player that they have to worry about, even if they don't get any of that loot or the resources from him. From some of these teams, but as I said, it's rotating off of Rift Island, or at least away from it. So if you were one of those teams that had the foresight and the knowledge to make that guess towards the south side of the map, you're in that power position, being able to look back at everybody else, and some of those teams are already high up on that mountain just outside of Mega City. So it's all about just staying in your position, 10 toes down. Great shot by Blurfire. Ends another duo's run, but it came at a cost. His teammate did go down, so even though he picked up the points, he got a huge refresh. He is now a solo doing this one by himself.
This is not an easy spot to be in, but Blurfire is making the best out of a bad spot. Plenty of mats to work with as he tries to clutch up some placement points at the least. Pink and Vico have found themselves the mother load of loot right now. A bunch of stuff to work with here. Some weaponry upgrades as well.
I like the decision here, especially. I think this season is one of the more flexible seasons in terms of being able to pick either a Havoc, the Sharp Tooth, you're seeing the Heist Breacher, you're seeing the Accelerant Maven, because each of them has its own sort of utility that goes along with it. The distance with the Sharp Tooth, the Pack-a-Punch with the Havoc, the speed boost with the Maven, and even being able to tear through builds with the Breacher. So it's all about your playstyle in this season, which is giving players a lot of flexibility in figuring out how they want to play.
This is going to be a test of their spirit, a test of their will. Mustache and Tayson somewhat split up right now, within touching distance, you'd say, but a max distance rotation to make. F9 and Moneymaker very much in between them right now. And we'll see how they choose to go about this. Mustache looking to run towards dead side, it seems. Is Tayson going to be following by? Yes, he is. He's the one leading the way, of course. And these guys are just going to move all the way around and avoid all that hassle on the other side of the zone.
Nobody in their path on the way there, except for the team that is just about to make it towards that edge of zone. It does look like there is a player trying to rotate behind him as well. As Vidil, Mr. Savage, 151, above the damage threshold. They're just trying to beeline it right to the center, go past everybody else, and that would be their opportunity to try to look back. And they're doing a good job of not being noticed by anybody that is there on the high ground, but Mr. Savage at the last moment gets tagged up just a little bit. Vidil just trying to build himself a little bit of defensive layers here between him and the possible enemies above him. In fact, it's actually looking like he's playing a little bit aggressive to try to push them off what loot he can take for his own.
Mr. Savage, a lot of eyes will be on them. Already doing so well today. They're looking to try and continue that streak, remain in the top 5, and maybe even push their way higher than that. Not too far behind in terms of points to do so. Kiri and Ping have an interesting journey left in this game, right? They're gonna have to try and find a refresh at some point, you think, with the material situation on Kiri. But just using this time they have right now to focus on getting their HB back up into a decent spot. F9 and Moneymaker are gonna get chopped out here if they're not careful. They're literally connected by just one thing. And so dropping down to reconnect and strengthen their base, but if they're not careful, someone's gonna look to come for it once again.
Phenomenal awareness to see that one coming and try to connect once again. Stash and Tayson, they made their rotation towards the slow side of the zone, but it's so small, there is no more slow side for a lot of these teams. They're still trying to continue to go from point A to point B. Mustache looking all around, making sure nobody is going to surprise him, and immediately spots somebody above, but down goes Savage yet again. Into the top 22, Vidil's going to have to do it as a solo, which is so possible because he's already done it once today. Quick edit, misses the shot, backtracks in his steps. Piece control going on over to his opponent. Vidil looking like he's scrambling, but finds a way out in the end.
I'm just wondering who that was that he was fighting. They took his wall first time. It's not often you see that one happen to Vidil. Nevertheless, all eyes will be on him. Can he pull off another solo clutch performance? This one's going to be a bit harder though, and it's not going to happen at all. Anchor is the one to take him down.
At least he got a couple more placement points for his effort as we tune back into just Tayson, because Mustache got taken down not too long ago. Trying to spot some teams, trying to waterfall down. Any bit of damage here is good. As a solo, he's just trying to pick up any bit of a refresh to try to keep himself going, because right now he only has that wood. He's going to be running out of hard mats here in just a moment as he takes a beam, trying to edit out. He needs to find a couple of seconds to stabilize himself here in this position, but nobody wants to let that one go for free in this lobby.
Such a tough spot for Tayson to be in. And he's been in difficult situations before. but a long time since he's had to solo clutch on a no movement meta like this one. Drop down into that box for a moment. Now gonna get the time to med kit. Gonna use that timing to try and lurk in the back of the zone and get a refresh if he can. DKS and Vox. They don't have to worry about that though. Still a duo in this game. It's Pink and Vico up above as well. So still many big names left in this one, but DKS is the one to eventually pick Tayson up.
This could be the game for Pink and Vico on the high ground because nobody has a chance to even look up. Fanajin was trying to do it earlier on in the game, but the tables have definitely turned. Robab now becomes the focus. DKS down low towards the low ground with Vox is trying to go ahead and be one of the first team through a lot of these builds. You don't want to fall behind all the chaos as Robab is being experienced that as he gets flanked from behind, taken down altogether as DKS and Vox are just trying to keep themselves intact. They're one of the only duos left in this lobby.
Won't be the back-to-back wins for Robab, but still a formidable game. Cammy almost costing themselves there with a wasp, but I see the intention behind it. Now gonna get wasped out himself. They're gonna need to start making a move on. It's gonna be tough, but so much fighting happening one tile above them. Pink and Vico just gonna watch it all unfold. They don't need to do anything too rash. Just need to stay here. They're in such a good spot. Cammy and Seti on low ground, claiming space, doing what you expect them to do every time they're in this spot. And they'll look to drop players down and pick them up. I believe they just picked up one there. At least it sounded like it. Yep, Cammy picked up an iron. And so now it's going to be up to them to try and clean up DKS and Vox's. Pink and Vico will try to squeeze them into a difficult spot as well.
Yeah, Vico doing a good job. He's going in front of everybody else, causing them to take a misstep overall. But Vico with the surprise attack onto both Cammy and Seti while they were distracted to steal away the game as they had full control from 10th zone onward.
I don't think that's a steal. I think they had full control, right? It was their game to lose with how easy things were up above. Of course, Cammy and Seti so cerebral when we see them in those sort of positions. But it was a tough spot to be in, with them being the ones having to take the fight against Vox, right? It was always going to be a very tough spot to be in. Either way, Pink and Vico, they ain't complaining at all. Such a huge win for this duo. Whenever you're a newly formed duo, going into the final major of the year, you're really starting to feel that pressure. But these guys aren't letting it get to them. They're not letting it affect them. They're doing their best to stay in this one. And a nice win to solidify what is a very strong duo.
Yeah, they are looking like one of the teams to beat here in our week 1 of FNCS Major 3 weekly finals. And when you look at it, that was almost impossible for them to lose due to the sheer amount of heals that Anas had in his inventory. So you got to give him a huge round of applause for playing that one near perfect at the end of it all.
Yeah, not an ass, mate. Not an ass, right? You're thinking throwback here, right? It's all we ever know, right? We're used to seeing Pink doing well. It's always been Pink and an ass, but now a new era for these guys. Pink and Vico, of course. Look, a very good game from these guys. Who better to break it down than our lovely analysts?
You know, I'm starting to wonder, and by wonder, I mean it's clear, if you have 9 splashes and 2 legendary slurp juices and high ground, Viv, you're probably going to win the game. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a couple instances today already where that's kind of been the case. So many heals up on the high ground. And I mean, I talked about a little bit earlier, the meta in a meta that where you don't have the movement items to get you through some of these late game rotations. A lot of these teams are just kind of sprinting through some of these moving zones, not building at all. But you know, you have the high ground teams who aren't really getting contested at all. They're just building for what seems like the entire game, and they're not really getting contested or shot at because they don't necessarily have to play that risky playstyle, which means all of the heals they've gathered up throughout the game, they're just there to use for the heal off if need be.
Yeah, exactly. When there's no mobility in the meta, high ground just becomes even more dominant. And we've seen it. We saw it last game, of course, with Robab. Now we're seeing it again with Pink. And this is just another good game for them. They've been on an upward trend today. They've had a 41st, 21st, 5th, and now a win in their respective first 4 games. So this is a really good sign for this team because it seems like they're finally getting the ball rolling with how they expect to play and what we expect to see from them.
And of course, if we had to just be like a tiny little bit nitpicky, 4 elims, maybe a little on the low side, but listen, Victorial is still a big swing in points. Why don't we take a look at the standings? That's kind of going to be that ultimate factor to tell us how things are shaping up, right? right now, Axe Force, Robot, they're holding on to that first place. They're like, hey, listen, regardless, we didn't win that back-to-back. It's fine, 11-2K, calm down. We're still in first place. But as we start to look down this leaderboard, gentlemen, these teams in that first and second place are starting to pull away. I mean, Cammy and Seti as well, they're right behind them.
Yeah, it's no surprise, right? This is a very Cammy and Seti-esque leaderboard, right? The most placement points out of everybody so far, and what seemingly is also the least amount of eliminations. Nonetheless, they've been very, very consistent throughout the day, been able to find very good layers, and they just do what they do best, right? Try to find anybody who's rotating, trying to get away with one of those risky rotates and hitting those clean shots when they get the openings.
I just know that Cammy and Seti, at the beginning of the season, when they were looking at the loot pool, they were like, where's the mobility? Where's the kinetic blade? Where's the hammer? It's not there. And they were licking their lips at that opportunity. They were like, yes, this is where we thrive. This is where we can pop off, and we're seeing it right again. We saw a moment, actually last chapter, where Cammy and Seti were being a little bit more aggressive in the end game. They were going for high ground a little bit more, but this time they've gone back to their old ways. It seems like this is the way they're going to be playing this season, and they're going to be trying to play for those placements, play a little bit less eliminations, but a little bit more consistently.
I actually love that point, right? Because of those other mobilities from past, right? You can just kinetic blade. Someone walks in your box, as long as they don't eliminate you, you're like, I'm going to kinetic blade away. That's it. You've wasted all these resources to get in my box, and you got nothing. For them, they're like, we're in a box now. You're with us. Really, you're going to lose. We're going to take all your stuff. So I like to see that as well. But let's come back on over to the standings. More duos to highlight here. Remember, we have 2 more games to go before we call it a day here in EU. Now, remember, Vico and Pink, they just got themselves that victory royale. They're suddenly up 8 places. They're now trying to contest that top 5, and they're not far behind. But look at someone like Vidil and Mr. Savage. These guys actually had a really strong start in case you missed out. In game number 2, they just had a massive victory royale, a massive solo clutch over on Vidil. And you know, Viv, right now they're kind of holding down that spot, but I haven't seen them kind of pop back off the same way they did in that other game.
Yeah, and honestly, I think the thing that I'm liking the most right now about this duo is that it's seemingly like they're getting consistently into the end game as a duo, but Mr. Savage just gets picked off in this instance right here, and Vidil, unfortunately, isn't able to replicate the Victory Royale solo clutch. I mean, who would really expect them to do something like that again? But, you know, you gotta both survive into those late games, right? We want to see these guys pop off as a duo.
Yeah, we saw them below on Surge there as well, so maybe the rotations have been a little bit difficult for them, so hopefully they'll fix it for the last 2.
Yeah, now, really quickly, I want to highlight some of the numbers we've seen out of these mid-match objectives. So remember, these are not anything new. We have Vaults, we have the Rift Island. However, now a duo that claims them will earn points for Rift Island being 15 or 3 for a vault, a single vault. So right now, iDrop Mappy, this means with that 30 points, they basically claimed 2 Rift Islands, right? So overall, looks like these guys are valuing those points. They seem to find this being an important factor in their gameplay, huh, Viv?
Yeah, we're already seeing kind of the impact of those objectives kind of play out on the leaderboard. We saw that Pink and Vico find themselves in the top 10 now after that game. In addition to the Rift Island, they actually went in a game. And then iDrop and Mappy being the only team so far to actually claim it twice. And with 2 games left to play, Mini, we're going to have to see if it's worth for some of these other teams to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing iDrop and Mappy trying to fight for that island all day long. And when it works, you saw it. Game number 1, they had a victory royale, so it really can be beneficial for them. It's worth the risk, but as you can see from their last few games, it hasn't quite worked out for them, and that's been the point where they're going down. Will they go back now to maybe playing a little bit less aggressive? I say back, they haven't done it all day, so we'll see if they can switch things up. Or will they just keep going aggressive? We'll have to wait and see.
Ben, only 2 more left to go before we say goodbye here in EU, but it's that time. More games means more Fortnite action. Let's jump back all up into it. Jacob PR, 11-2K, over to y'all.
Thank you very much, Zeke. A pleasure to be here as always, and we are very much looking forward into heading over and wrapping up these last couple of games, Jacob. A lot of action so far that I think people will be very excited about. But all eyes, I think, are going to continue to be on the battle at the Spire of Spawn. That's all I can think of. I can't get it out of my mind right now.
Yeah, they finally won that first off-spawn battle. And I felt like you could almost sense the confidence begin to build in that team. But then they immediately got third-partied. And honestly, I'm not too worried for them because if you look at every single season prior, they have qualified in 2 weeks in the past, but there's no Surge week, so no time for mistakes. In fact, it's time for game number 5.
An opportunity to solidify your spot in the standings heading into that last game and really perch yourself up into prime position to finish the day. You just have to be the ones to take it. And over here we have another name change. It looks like our boy Queasy has decided to change his name to Castle King along with Vino. So we'll see a win, finally a win. Hooray! The kings of the castle finally reign supreme. Queasy picks up, or I should say Castle King, picks up the shotgun and delivers the goods. Oh my goodness. I thought I wasn't gonna see the day.
For some reason, I thought immediately with Nebs taking him down, I thought somebody tried to third party in. But no, it's just immediately fight after fight after fight here in game number 5 to kind of start it off. A lot of these teams that may not be where they're at on the leaderboard are beginning to pick up that pace. And this is a fight we've seen a few times today to where they were okay splitting that drop, splitting the loot and going their separate ways. But this game is going to be a little different.
I'm sorry, man. My mind's still on King of the Castle and Castle King. Why did they have to change it? I don't want to have to call them that all season. Why did they have to change their names? Oh well. At least they're the kings of the castle, eh? Fire. For now. Fire Pro. Trying his best here off spawn. But Zestful and Super are gonna do their best to shut that one down. And shut it down they will.
Every single time when these fights finish, I immediately look into that mini-map, and there goes Mariah just trying to put the shots in, but needs to be careful.
Needs to be careful what? He takes him out? Nice and easy. Yeah. Super was trying to revive. Yeah, he was trying to revive Zestful, but Mariah just said, nah, bro. It's over for you.
Instantly getting that loot. What do we got? Ooh! Nice legendary combat SMG, but show them 11, and they're laughing, are slowly sneaking up. Hopefully their laughs aren't too loud so they can be heard, but that's neither here nor there, because immediately he takes the rift and tries to reunite with Hero. It's a smart play, not overstaying your welcome in any sense of the word. Just take what you bought and just immediately disengage.
Some off-spawn battles. It's not an FNCS without Giras fighting off-spawn in the north side of the map, is it? And making quick work of the fighters. So Scram quickly out of the lobby. And QB followed up as well. Giras feeling it right now.
That's a couple of battles back-to-back already won. There's Thomas. He's just trying to save as many of those heals. Go for the trades in which you're used to here at Rift Island and kind of go from there. If you kind of see their materials already, they're stacked up. Racetrack, even though it may not have the best loot overall, I think it is one of the best drop spots that isn't a named POI here on the map. Yapko and Paco slowly but surely closing in on Uguay and Gobra. 82 points so far. Now's the time to really try to pick up the pace, but they're just waiting until they start with some early damage. But since they didn't get anything, they're just going to go ahead and allow them to disengage. They're going to go back to what they were doing before. Try to get as many mats as possible before the mid-game, and they have to rotate on top of that hill. I feel like this stat right here, Seti and Kemi have averaged the fewest elims per game among teams with multiple top 10 finishes in weekly finals. It's just their play style. It's how they play. They let the lobby kind of take each other out, and then towards the mid game, then towards the end game, you see when those opportunities naturally present themselves, that's when they begin to come online and get active in these lobbies.
Yeah, that's typical Kemi and Seti, to be fair. Pink and Vico. Here at landing at the pink split. And they're getting cut off a bit. Needs to be a bit careful. You see them just being a bit alert. Pink likes to go over to that area to loot up, but he won't have the opportunity to do that here in this game.
Just really looking at that leaderboard after these last couple of games, a huge amount of where Vidil and Mr. Savage are currently positioned on the leaderboard really goes back to that clutch from Vidil. Right now, they haven't been having the best performance as a team, but that doesn't scare me away just yet from this team, because that just means they haven't had their pop-off moment yet. And this players, or this full team, both Mr. Savage and Vidil, have so much potential to pop off as a full team. They're just getting warmed up as individuals.
I was getting worried. We hadn't seen the Brutal Bastion vault all day. I was thinking, has it disappeared or something? What's happened to it? But finally get to see it.
Still luck of draw in these situations. Looks like this third-party team is going to be one of the first ones to try to rotate away. Cade and Deox. I don't even know if they know Cheapo and User are here, because if they don't know they're there, this could be one of those moments before disaster strikes type situations where User and Cheapo might be able to get a beam on Deox and Cade. They're risking a lot to try to go for this, because if you look, even though it's only one tick very, very early on, they don't have any heals, at least on the side of Cheapo. He has 2 different ARs, he has 2 different heals in both big pots and minis, then he has a shotgun. So the longer they take in the storm, the harder it is going to be for them not only survive, but win the fight overall.
Yeah, but we've seen them very much open to sticking in the storm in these kind of fights before, so they won't be feeling too much pressure. They'll be comfortable, if anything.
Great shots there. Jalen just trying to fire back at any sense of the word. Clunix deals a good amount of damage, but you even see some other teams. Skrill, Blue Fire coming in. Twee and him are going to end up in the same box, but now they're just surrounded and hounded. I wonder if anybody even knows that third team is there. Wild Wasp coming out as well. Just trying to funnel them into one direction or another. Even the explosive repeater rifle being used, it said, doesn't matter who we sneak up on, both of these teams can get hit.
Yeah, and look, if you're Jalen and Twy, you got to start to step it up. Right now, Jalen and Twy, they're currently, well, I say Jalen and Twy, mainly Jalen. Because for the people that don't know, there's a bit of a sweepstake right now in the community between Jalen and our boy Archie. And right now, Jalen's he's below, right? They're about 31st. Archie's sitting in around 24th. So right now, Archie's outplacing Jalen. They got a rivalry going on, and Jalen won't be too happy about that. So let's start to see Jalen pick it up a bit. That's my boy right there. I want to see him improving, rising up in the standings. Of course, we know they want them series points if they want to get back to the grand finals like we saw them last season.
You know how I know you're popular? Everybody's your boy at this stage of the game.
You know what? Not everyone's my boy. I got a lot of boys in the lobby, but not everyone's my boy.
Just don't know them yet to show them. They're laughing. Trying to cause some commotion here. They're trying to be the last ones laughing if they're in a 2v1 situation here. Trying to break into the box, and they take down Kyrie. Those are crucial points from the second half of the game. This is game number 5. You only have these last 2 moments here to pick up these series points and get to the top of the leaderboard before time is over. So that's why we're jumping and seeing all these crucial fights going down. So even though they did disengage, Volko and Artis are just trying to make sure they're as safe as can be at this edge of the zone, because in theory, the zone will continue to pull towards the east side of the map.
Back over towards Mega we go, and typical Mega gameplay here, where players chilling their bases, look for tags, some spare shields, gonna be somewhere down there, either in the base or in the building. Ooh, what do we have here? The Castle boys up against Tayson and Mustache with some other players in the fray as well. It looks like Hellfire and Nebs are here. oh my, what is this fight?
These are almost every team you didn't expect to be the position they are at on the leaderboard. And King of Castle is going to be able to instantly break through a lot of these builds with that Heisted Breacher, but he gets back down just a little bit, but no worries here nor there as Castle King is right by his side. On the Castle duo, they're trying to claim it as their own. Successful here in this last game, but Mustache running out of time to try to get that revive onto Tayson. Third parties are coming in. He's trying to use that as a distraction, but only a few seconds, and he's a few seconds too late to try to get that res onto Tayson. So that distraction is now the same thing that makes him the focus of this fight.
That's tough. The Castle boys finally getting a chance to play a game out, and they're making a big impact. Tayson's not going to be too happy. It's another game where Mustache is going to have to fend for himself, but I really want to figure out what's going wrong with that duo. Not the kind of performance you expect to see from them at all. Good, though, to see Castle King and King of the Castle not backing down. I can't lie to you, Jacob. I was seeing a lot of people jumping on their backs after the first couple games went awry. I didn't realize how many haters these guys had until I saw them go down off spawn. There was one person in particular who had a message for them that I thought was pretty funny to highlight. So shout out to the brother that sent, he tweeted it and he added me in it, and he said, "Kings of the Castles, more like court jesters." So not the nicest thing to say to them, but they are, you know, on the rise again in the pursuit of being true kings. I shared that one with Vino. I shared the tweet with Vino, and he found it pretty funny as well. So all in good spirits. But yeah, people don't give up on them too quickly. They are the reigning FNCS champions for a reason. And even though today's not been the best performance by any means, not what you expect to see from champions, very much these guys are still going to be a threat over the course of the season. Like I said earlier, give them some time to practice the spot, they'll be good.
I would sit in silence because they're probably printing out those tweets, putting them on the wall, using it as motivation. As Moneymaker and Fnage were already on top of Rift Island, they spotted another team taking the Rift, trying to contest them. He did a good amount of damage on the side of Moneymaker, but he immediately goes to reunite with his teammates because there is a huge strength in numbers, and these castles are just all over the map trying to take over. And now they got the 3 points from the vault this game, and they're going for 15 more on Rift Island alone.
Big stuff here. But we actually got Taco, who's got a bit of an update for us, so fill us in, Taco. What's up?
Well, we're actually going to be following up a little bit from where we touched on earlier. We saw Robob and Axe-Force utilizing that jungle biome so excellently, but what's really interesting is the rotation path that they're actually opting for from their initial draw spot. They're going towards that east side and just really taking full advantage of, we saw the height takes already for the Storm Surge tags, but the fact that they're using so many of these slurp plants to just keep these rotations so aggressively on the outskirts of Shady Stilts, it just is part of the reason why I think we see their elimination count being so high, because their positioning is just phenomenal.
Not only that, Taco, great breakdown, but it just shows how methodical they are in their game plans. The castle comes crumbling down. They both get sent back to the lobby, but at least they had something for their efforts here in this game to try to pick up the pace in the last and final one just around the corner. Because now he gets to kind of pick and choose whatever loot he wants, and it looks like he's going for, once again, that Heisted Breacher shotgun. Being able to surprise any team towards this end game is huge, not only for survival, but picking up some points. First shot was big. Second one was bigger. So as you can see, Rumble Ruins and the long white line that Seti and Cammy have to travel to get in the zone. Please believe the zone is continuously moving towards the east portion of the map. And if you kind of look at the tilt, it has a little bit of north tilt on that white line. It has a north pole as well. So a lot of the teams are going to be looking for whatever rotation they can. And that's why you see Seti and Cammy immediately going for the mud, trying to make sure that there's nobody else nearby before they just beeline it to zone. They don't want to be one of the last teams there. Because of the lack of mobility, it could make you the focus of the lobby. Not it could, it will make you the focus of the lobby.
You never want to be that.
every piece of loot going to Fanaj and Moneymaker. Even the vault on top of Rift Island, which has already been captured. 188 below the threshold, though. Definitely looking for anybody that is on this rotation, but since they are in zone and it's going to pull away, they might be looking to wait for the zone to close and try to pull away, but then they're going to be taking so much damage to Surge, so they have to be getting proactive. They have to be trying to get aggressive here and find. They just can't settle for nothing, because otherwise they're just digging themselves into a hole.
Yeah, and this is the time to do it, right? Obviously, this game and then the next one, and then that's it, right? Then you're sort of heading back to the drawing board, waiting for next week. Nebs and Hellfire had a very hot start to the day. Of course, double-digit elimination, second place was a game where they really strutted their stuff, but we want to see more from them throughout. Norksy in the midst of a battle here on the island, and Moneymaker's trying to do the best he can. A cone above his head is going to be nice to try find some control, but isn't actually able to replace the ramp and get the shot through, so will amount to nothing. But still picks it up. Nicely done, Moneymaker.
Picture perfect, and you're seeing how smoothly he's moving in and out of these builds thanks to that breacher. Basically 1 or 2 shot the majority of them. Now they're on the hunt for that last player as iDrop and Mappy just pick up the elimination on to Diox. And you even see Archie still in the game along with Nipsey doing a good job. And I think everybody's just happy with how this performance on the day has been going.
Archie's still up? That's my G. I love that. Look, look, before the serious crunch time comes, yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get another chance to really highlight this, but I remember last season, yeah, Vino and Archie played a performance evaluation cup, and Vino and Archie won. And everybody said Vino's just carried Archie, you know, Vino's the best. How's he carried Archie to a win in a tournament with money on the line? All I'm saying is right now, Archie's outplacing Vino in an FNCS weekly final. It's not every day you get to say that, so who carried who is the real question we got going on now, innit?
That's gonna be all over. That's probably gonna be all over at the end of this one. The truth finally comes out.
Of course I say that and he goes down, man.
It was fun while it lasted, Levin, let me tell you.
Oh no. Come on, Archie, you gotta back yourself after I say all that. I'm talking trash for him, and he's not backing up. It's all good though. It's always good to see Archie out here, and of course, I am just playing around.
Let's see, where is Archie currently positioned on the leaderboard? Going into this game, they were roughly, I do believe, still in the top 10. Maybe they kind of bounced out, but they still have one more game. They still have one more game. They're actually 24th going into this game. They have a lot of time to make up, but if you look at the leaderboard, they can still burst up a lot of placings with one well-placed game in the last moments here. But 125 above the damage threshold. Botshot Mixon remaining proactive in this situation. You don't want to even fall close to below that damage threshold in a lobby this stacked.
Yeah, it's really starting to get to that crunch time, right? We're going to have to see players like Nefrizzi and Lusher start to get a bit more desperate. Looking to outhill for now, but really got to start thinking about how and where you can deal any sort of damage to get yourself up above that threshold. Because you don't want to leave it up to the luck of the lobby.
Tough rotation. You can see they're not really wanting to use that Rift because they still need to look for damage when it comes to the Storm Surge. Plus, they want to look for that fallen loot. Their loadout is looking rather empty in this situation. Spotting any teams that might be falling behind. Even looking up for that Rift because Storm Surge, they're even falling deeper and below that threshold. Luckily for them, he did find some minis to try to get himself back up to shape. But there's only so many and only so much time you can use to try to out-heal him.
You can see them running back into the storm. And again, you never want to leave yourself at the mercy of the lobby as they glide through the sky here. There's not going to be an opportunity for them to deal damage as they're gliding through. It is just going to be their doom, their demise, and so that will be the end for them.
Can you imagine being that team that's just boxed up and you just looking up? Oh, it's raining loot. It's raining loot, and that could be the refresh that makes the difference in somebody's game. Probably should have tried to heal up right before going, but chances need to be made this close to the end. 6 eliminations for Steno and Lushi. You see that they're still below the damage threshold, so trying to put that pressure right below. They know at least one team is down there. They know so many more all around. Looks like they're toying with the idea to pop the first of many slurp juices between the two before falling down low. They're trying to finish what they started, but it does look that duo might have escaped. They rotated very, very early on, so Steno and Lushi dropped down into nothing.
It's going to be tough if Lushi hit a wasp as well. Causing havoc. Steno and Lush gonna try and move through the zone, but so many eyes on them. They're just gonna have to commit their mats if they really want to get in. But even then, even committing your mats, getting in is so difficult right now. And once they're there, what they're gonna have to show for it down below. Lower materials, lower HP. They need a lifeline and fast players running beneath them. You see the desperation, just trying to force their way in. Almost accidentally boxed Vox up. He didn't even realize DKS was beneath him. There was a chance to get the shot off and he just ran straight past. The panic setting in, chaos all across the board, and it's only a matter of time you've got to think for Lushi until he gets taken out completely. Shots flying in from all over the gaff. 7 HP in a dream.
So how is he still alive, running, finally making the zone? He's immediately trying to get to the action, pick up any of that fallen loot, doesn't find anything that he could work with, fires a shot as he turns the corner, stabilizes here for just a moment, breaking through the build, just trying to build himself a box that is all his own. He still doesn't have time to pop the minis because he doesn't want to waste that opportunity where he could try to go for a shot. From somebody that's just going through so many different stretches to a team high up in the sky, eye drop and Mappy. If you look at their heals as well, if this one does go down to a heal off, those mythic slap splashes heal 30 instead of 15. That is so much heals available for that team on the high ground. So somebody has to look to contest them early. Even if you just fire some shots, whittle down their shield, force them to expend their heals as fast as possible.
Ooh, Lushi's making this happen. He's keeping the dream alive for his duo. Needs to be careful. There's a player right there. Elevates appropriately and well timed. Needs to stay careful when you see him using the materials to make sure he doesn't get caught out. Very aware of where that danger is. Malabuka in a world of danger, and anybody around him is going to be in a world of danger because he's fiery and very angry right now. Left as a solo, has to go huge to clutch up in this game. Blaha and Mixon, after picking up a revive, Blaha trying to make the way, trying to make space for his duo partner to survive.
The pullback is going to help eyedrop and Mappy, and you see they destroy the builds towards the low ground. They want to lessen the chance of anybody trying to sneak up on them. With Moran and Kiro, they're getting aggressive. They pick up an elimination onto a Nas, a huge siphon and a refresh to keep their game going. But from one team to the next, Tropics even finding as much loot as possible after picking down both Giri and Charas. That's a huge amount of loot that they can use as they push themselves deeper into this endgame.
Malabuka in the back of the zone. Big shots. Needs to hit more. Can't get too ahead of himself. But you know when given an opportunity, he's going to do it twice. And there's more opportunities here as well. Debuel doesn't even have a clue it's about to happen. But Malabuka can't quite get the timing. Oh dear. I thought it was going to happen. Nevertheless, Seti moving through this zone. Building in a bit of a panic, but there's some calm in the storm for him as finally gets himself in a nice spot here with Cammy where they can farm up that tree and look to move in a bit more. Looking up for height as well. Need to be careful.
Oh, perfect plays with Breacher. He's just breaking down the builds for the high ground. They notice it. They put pressure down low. Fadil and Mr. Savage into the top 11. He's making sure to get every single heal that he can, just in case this one does go down to a heal off. He's even leading the way for Fadil, who's on the back, making sure, again, nobody can turn around and hit a flank shot, but he's out of builds, fresh out of mats, looking for a refresh, but it's DKS who finds it onto Cammy, throws the body in their box. Top 10 we go, Levin.
Look at DKS and Vox. We saw them in some trouble before we got to first moving, but they've clearly picked things up and turned their game around. Mr. Savage and Vidil, we saw the efforts to try and claim low ground earlier, and after running out of mats, they're now resulting to using their shotguns, and it won't be enough to keep them in the game. DKS and Vox may have gotten hurt in all that battle though, as now DKS is left as a solo to try and use his heals in the zone, get some placement points as we enter this top 5 situation.
The team that has already captured the Rift Island 2 times for 30 extra points. They already have a huge victory on the day, and they're looking for a second one. They have full control, but DKS has a solo. This is his chance to stagger himself outside. Slurp Juice being popped, but one splash left, so he's looking at every single player that was taken down before him to see if there's any heals that he can use. His eye drop, Mappy still taking control. They drop down, another elimination, but he turns, he burns, take down eye drop. Vanazen trying to put the game on his shoulders, but there's still so many heals going down towards the high ground, and it comes down to this, a 1v1 situation. Karmi, he has the low ground. Mappy, he has the high ground, and he has 7 mythic slap splashes. That is 210 possible heals. You added the med, he found more slap splashes. Mappy has the luck of the Irish on his side when it comes to heals, but Karmi, with the little bit that he has left on the med miss, he's trying to figure out how much time he has left, but it's all out. He is fresh out of time, but he's headed through another med miss. Where are people finding every single piece of these heals to try to heal off? But Mappy, once again, those slap splashes really proving to be the difference maker in this heal off towards the end, but he's down just to the med miss and a couple of bandages, which he won't be able to use. Karmi finds another med miss, but no time to use it. Mappy, with every heal on the island, takes the game.
Feels like a bit of deja vu to previous seasons we've had with all these heal-offs going on. Oh my goodness. I'm surprised Storm Sickness didn't start to get involved with how deep we went into that game. Both those players doing all they could to try and heal off, and the amount of times they kept finding heals. Wow, okay, look, another game then goes to our boys iDrop and Mappy, and for a moment I was worried. I thought iDrop maybe got a bit too big for his boots when he dropped down there, but Mappy able to hold on, had the heal of potential, and these guys will pick up another win here today. A dominant display of excellence from a duo that I think many people have had under the radar a bit and are now finally starting to show that they are a top team in this region.
Yeah, can you imagine the feeling? Him just healing off with every heal. Why isn't this guy down yet? And then Karmi finding every med miss. How many heals does this guy have? The amount of stress both of those players just went through at the very end is the same stress a lot of these players are probably going through right now looking at the leaderboard. But we need to see who's in first place, who's in our top 10. Zeke, let us know.
You know, guys, for a moment there, 11-2K said a dominant performance of excellence. I thought they were talking about themselves there. It's like, whoa, guys, calm down. But in all seriousness, a fantastic game. Now 2 victory royales over on Mappy and iDrop. My gosh. Now, again, if we're going to be nitpicky, low on the elimination side, but quite the heal off did this go to, boys. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it went for a while, and listen, this is one of those classic high ground games. I feel like we've seen pretty much the same thing every single game. Whoever's on the high ground pretty much just has a free ride throughout the rest of the game. They have so many heals up there, but this one in particular had a bounce back, so Mappy and iDrop were actually able to use old builds in addition to the fact that they went into the first moving zone with 100 builds each. How they managed to get to that position and only use like a total of 100 builds to get there is another question to be asked. But yeah, iJap going down a little bit early. Could have maybe got a couple more eliminations there, but Mappy closed it out.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to see from this team. I wanted to see, can they perform without the aid of that Rift Island? They didn't get it this game, and guess what? They're still on high, they still won the game, and they still have plenty of heals left at the end. It was so close there at the end for the heal off, but so well played for them throughout that game.
Yeah, I guess that Rift Island from games ago, right? They were going to be on high ground either way. It just helped them be that much more dominant on that high ground. But hey, even without it, they're rocking it. Let's take a look at our standings. So do keep in mind we have one more game left to go here on the day, and of course we're playing for series points after the day. Wherever duel ends up, we'll put points on another leaderboard. But right now, Robob, Kebab, Axe Force, we've seen these guys. They finally did overtake that #1 position, and now for 2 games in a row, they've held it there. But Vivid, Cammy, and Seti are right behind them. What can this duo do to really bring the heat in this last game?
I mean, it's just got to be more eliminations for them. Right now, they have 28 total over the course of these 5 games. They're averaging more than 5 eliminations per game, and that's what's keeping them on top of the leaderboard. So really, I just want to keep basically saying the battle of Robob and their eliminations versus, you know, Seti and Cammy and their just placement point style.
Yeah, play some points is what it's all about for them. But of course, Robab and Axos, they're doing so good with eliminations. These final clutch eliminations to get the Storm Surge damage was absolutely vital for this team. Albeit not the best game for this team, of course, going down there at 15th place. So they definitely need a little bit of a better game to clutch up. But what is that, 5 points difference between the two of them? It's really looking close for Cammy and Say and Robab. It's going to be close.
It's terrifying, and I love that Vivid brings up the good point, right? We have two separate styles happening. Robab and company, they're looking for eliminations. Seti and Cammy, they're looking to say, how close to that victory royale can we get, right? And just a couple of the games so far today, we've actually seen them with more eliminations that we're kind of used to seeing, right? Normally, it's like they'll end the game with 2, maybe 3, but they're still trying to find that balance, I feel like. Vivid, would you agree or disagree?
Oh yeah, 100%, right? And that's what Fortnite's all about, especially when it comes to, gathering up points. Now we just have the mid-match objectives that also need a little bit of extra balancing to make sure you go ahead and get a couple of those. But speaking about balance, right? Cammy and Seti, they've had some great solo clutches on the day, and I really feel like they found their stride in that mid-ground layer in almost every single game.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, and even making their materials and their utility last into the end game. And then when they need that refresh, they're actually fighting on the backside of zone. When everyone else is struggling to find their way into zone because of the less or the no mobility that's in the game right now, they're actually able to find a lot of those stragglers, which don't have the materials, that don't have the heals, and of course don't have that health. So it's such free refreshes, free eliminations for them. They're doing great.
Yeah, the duo is so surgical when it comes to because a lot of times you look up and you're like, how they have no eliminations? How do they have all these materials, all these resources? It's because they know exactly what they're doing, right? Every little thing is planned out until those final moments where they're either go down or they're going to get as far as possible. Now let's take a look at the standings one more time. Remember, only one game left to go, so duos really need to bring the heat if they want to slam more points on those series point leaderboard. I drop Mappy. Remember, they now have 2 victory royales, and after that second one, they will jump up 6 whole places, looking to try and end the day in top 3. Is that possible? Do you think that could happen?
Oh, yeah, 100% right. We've seen them claim the Rift Island multiple times, multiple VRs on the day, right? So they have already proven that they can pretty much get the 2 things in Fortnite right now that are worth the most points. So if they can combine those 2 together in this last game, then they'll for sure break into the top 3.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like both these players have sort of struggled to find their duo partner in history. It hasn't really been the best showing from them with different teammates in the past. But now, once they've come together, iDrop and Mappy forming as a duo, they just seem to come out in a different sort of way, a different beast, if you like, when they are paired up together. I'm loving the way they're playing. They're playing so bold, so risky, and at the moment, it's paying off.
I love this too because a long time ago, one of the conversations we had with Monster Deface and one of our casters is sometimes players do well in seasons because the seasons favor their playstyle, right? And so I feel like for this duo, this season is really catering to what it is they're looking to accomplish. But this is it. It is that time. We've gotten word. The final bus here from EU is here. It is ready for us to go. So for the last ride, 11-2K, Jacob PR, over to you.
Thank you very much, Zeke. It has been a pleasure to call these games thus far. What a start to the season it's been right here in EU FNCS, Jacob. So much going on, so much I didn't actually expect to even see coming into today, but definitely has been entertaining for sure.
No, it definitely has. And if you think about last season, how week 3 went to close it out because of Surge Week, some of these teams might not have that easy road, and week 3 might be a whole different ball game, but that's in the future. We're here, we're now, game number 6 is about to start underway, but are there any big names, or any people, any strategies that you're looking at in this final game?
Look, all the strategies have to come out now. It's your last chance here in week 1. Game number 6 is ready.
The final moments of EU Week 1 finals come down to this. You guys saw the leaderboard. Robab with a decent lead in first place, but it's only 5 points over Seti and Cammy. Couple more points over Tropex and Hootie. The biggest difference is once we get out of that top 5, teams are really gonna have to pick up the pace if they want that podium finish.
Not gonna be easy. But you have to make it happen. Lunex, Xander. Doing the business here so far. Cheapo quickly taken out and dealt with.
That was big. Not only was that big for their points, that was great for their game, but you add on the fact that that's a whole switch of a drop spot that they went from this side of the map to where you saw them trying to contest on over towards Kenjutsu Crossing, but we got a replay in action. Shaco's and Skydune, the streak continues. He even forced a pickaxe out of the Castle Kings.
That is very, very sad to watch. Like that is just not what you want to see from FNCS champions. It has been a very, very sad day for Queasy and Vino fans. And it is very, very rare that we see these guys perform like this or have a day like this. It actually means that we have one of the longest standing streaks coming to an end here. Right, for Queasy and Vino, right? This is the first time Queasy and Vino have not won a game in a weekly final in a long, long time, all chapter long. Every single FNCS of this chapter, they have won a game in one of the weekly finals. Every single one, except for
It's just scary because now you're forcing them, I wouldn't say try, because they're obviously trying in this game, but it just forces them to kind of rethink. Now they're going to practice that drop spot. Queasy, Vino, they're going to come back with a huge vengeance in week number 2 if they can make it that far. But Hellfire's in a real peculiar spot, 1v2 situation. Just like last game with Kefi coming out on top, Hellfire's going to have to make the decision. Do I continue to try to attack in a 1v2 situation, or do I try to disengage? It's actually a 1v1 as Nebs did get an elimination right before going down. And I think right now Hellfire's just looking for that reboot. Uh-oh.
Oh, a nice return shot.
Huge shots. Huge shots from both of them as Kefi just goes on top. Quickly tries to disengage. Here's the reboots going off in the distance. That's vital information for him as well, even though he can't make that a primary focus of his game plan. And it does look like for a moment, Hellfire's going back on over to re-engage in this fight against Kefi, who has no builds. And that's why you see him being a sort of an acrobat here to try to maintain the high ground. He drops down, tries to fire a shot on a Hellfire, and the third party comes in as well. A little bit of a helping hand, but it's Kefi who gets the credit for that elimination.
Almost had a bit of a blunder there as well, right? Because afterwards he started getting shot from a distance and he couldn't build. Bench was able to cover himself, but good job to Kefi for winning that battle out.
Just gotta go for that reboot. Gotta be careful though, because there was that third party literally just seconds ago moving in, and it looks like it was Anas and Scrapped, who were their players trying to cause some sort of disruption in the game plan. And that's a huge green light for Anas, because he sees that there is no shields on his opponent in the distance. He knows he's a solo player as well, so they are going to chase him down, get these points, and what little bit of resources that he does have on his back. Ooh. That's a little bit of a hiccup there when it comes to builds being placed, but Anas finishes the fight regardless, stands up tall. They get at least one elimination and some surge in their pocket for later on in the game.
Yeah, Nas and Strapped haven't quite had the day I would have personally wanted to see them have. But I think the good thing about this season and the way it's going to break down with series points is that as long as you're making it here and you're putting up some sort of a fight and you can do that consistently, it will go a long way. Jalen and Twy.
Ooh.
On the hunt.
Look at the chemistry between these two, though. While Twy was just under pressure, taking so much damage, Jalen not only landed a shot, but was able to reunite. I'm telling you, this team, it may not most be the clean plays that you're seeing, but their chemistry is what every team should look to kind of have.
I'm pretty sure with that elim as well, with these elims, I think they've just moved past Archie in points. So Jalen may have just beat the case, and he may be ahead in the Archie sweepstakes. I'm sure we'll figure that out as the game goes by. That's what everyone cares about, right? The Jalen Archie sweepstakes.
See Malibuca go down. I think the Tropex early on. Hoody's still there as well. Another team coming in. That's both Vaniac and Karmi. Into the distance, over that mountain. Zakira and Sky Jump as well. It just looked like everybody pausing for the second. and using that quick second to try to disengage. And you see every eventual FNCS champion in EU this chapter has competed in the Week 1 finals, which goes to show, even though they might not have the most consistent performances from each and every major, they're doing just enough to get into the grand finals of Major 3 and give themselves a chance at even more money, because they already got their global championship spot, some of them.
If I was one of the teams not playing right now, and I read that stat, I'd be, my knees would be trembling, shivering me timbers. Like, what am I doing? Every single winner has come and played in Week 1. Interesting. There does seem to be a correlation there across Fortnite history, you know.
What is the correlation?
Just people doing well in like Week 1 of a tournament, and then, you know, they go on to win that tournament. Think back, the earliest I think back to is like Boogo all the way back, World Cup Week 1 solos. And then obviously goes back on to win World Cup, you know, that's the earliest one I think of. And I feel like you do get that quite a bit, you know?
Yeah, so you're saying they have history on their side at least.
Literally, not even just, it's just the actual stat,
they have everything on their side. They just need to follow the blueprint, the path that was already laid out for them. Vico, Pink, 180 points. They've been performing increasingly well, and you see the Wild Boss jars very, very early on. Makes me wonder if he actually picked the augment or picked it up from somebody else. We'll see if he continues to hold those later on in the game. But Moneymaker and Fnasion, another team that's been increasingly getting better each and every single time I get to watch them in finals. And last game was really no different. It came down to Fnasion and that heisted Breacher shotgun. They picked up a huge amount of points and got a great placement to top it off. It's not your passion. So that was sneaky. That was actually sneaky. The reason why you hit those, any of the plants, whether the explosive one or the stink bomb one, is they always go in directions of players. So as they saw it go in that direction, he could kind of guess that maybe there's somebody there, depending on which trajectory he actually hit it in to start. Always thinking outside of the box. I like when we finally see these weekly finals roll around and a lot of the strategies do come out.
Question always is, don't want to use it too early, right? That's what people always say, but I'm with you there. I like people putting out what they've got to offer just to secure, right? Especially because we know, like, with this season, you just want to be going for your best performances, you know, week in, week out. It's not a matter of having one good week and that secures it for you.
I feel like you need 2 good weeks and then a decent 3rd week. Doesn't have to be in order. So if you're going to have your kind of lackluster week at the start, it just means you have to pick up the pace in the next 2 weeks. But with no surge week this season, it's really going to test a lot of the mental game, realistically. Because depending on where you're at after 2 weeks, and you have to go big in week number 3, you got to have that composure to kind of top it off. As Cammy and Seti traveling through the new jungle biome near Sun Tzu Lagoon.
I think the one thing it'll definitely affect is people who like to switch up their duos, right? We often see it in a lot of seasons going into week 3, people just switching things up as a last minute sort of hope to try and make things work and qualify. But you can't really do that, in theory at least, of how things we expect to play out. Oh, Malabuka! I really thought he was going to do the 1v2 there. Unfortunately, that will be the end of the ride for Malabuka and Thomas, who, again, considering how well they did in the previous round, haven't quite lit the world on fire here today. And I think you can just sort of say that for all of the big names in EU, really. The likes of Malabuka and Thomas, Taysom, Mustache, Queasy, and Vino, of course, right? These are the people you expect, the blockbuster names, and hasn't quite been blockbuster days for those teams. Only one really that has showed up in that sense would be Seti and Cameron, right? In terms of the headliner duos in EU.
And the thing that I just look at it too, it just shows like the whole region, not just the top half of the region, but all of EU is just strengthening their skill. They're just getting better each and every week. So that just means that that top-heavy style of game plan might not be as viable as it was before. You're really going to have to dig deep in a lot of your strategies and really play perfect because, you know, I haven't said it since, you know, the early games of this tournament, but due to the lack of mobility, it is very, very punishing for players that even make something as one misstep in any of these altercations. And that's why you're seeing, like, even Merstash over on the side with his teammate Hide on Bush, trying to make up for lost time and the blunders they had to start the tournament.
Is this what we're doing now? Are we all just changing our names? Okay, guys, I'm gonna have a couple words with people after the event today.
If anybody could tell them anything, it's you. 'Cause they're just gonna pick me up and put me in timeout. Going down, they're not giving up. Just immediately trying to get into the box. That Yapko on the other side. They're both actually separated between the two. So as soon as Hideout Bush tries to backtrack, he could get another angle, but it's just a little bit too little, too late as Yapko and Paco once again get into the same box, hip to hip, and land a monster of a shot onto his teammate Hide on Bush, and even gets the knock. And that leads him into a 1v2 situation for Yapko. Paco, and you can see this slap splashes being used to give them the unlimited stamina. And what do they do? They immediately try to break into the box from multiple angles, backing down Merstash little by little, but he's doing a good job of fighting back. Both players' shields have been depleted in mere seconds.
Yapko, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Yapko. What do we have here? Made quick work of Tayson, or sorry, Hide on Bush. And now there's a Mustache is gonna fall as well.
Shaky for a lot of these situations if you're looking to try to have a comeback performance here. In game number 6, everything comes crumbling down, but once again, it's just very exciting to see that a lot of these teams are really picking up the pace, but Yapko, back on wasting no time. Like I always said, these bricks on the snow biome of the map, they allow you to farm up and almost get max mats. And I think the fastest I've been able to do it is just 4 different bricks, get max mats.
Yep, very fruitful in this area of the map. Vox and DKS, one of the teams you've seen be a consistent feature throughout these games. It's interesting, right? Because we always see them in situations where in the mid-game, they look good. They have a decent setup. Then sort of as we head deeper and deeper in some of those half and half out zones, you look at their positioning and you go, hold on a minute. How's this going to turn into anything decent? But yet they manage to make things work. I think it's a testament to how well they are at sticking with each other, even through chaos. And that's why they're currently sitting in that top 10, 7th place right now, and looking to climb even more.
I don't know if that's Geary and Char still in that position. You kind of see him almost in the center of zone. One of the few teams there, the Purple Arrows, they already have high ground built into that position. They already have mats. They can build it even higher and block anybody from crossing their path. Can even block off the launch pad to prevent any bit of mobility going down. As Vico and Pink, they have a large journey to overcome, a large distance to cover here in this next rotation. You can see instead of just going straight up where a lot of those players are going to be congested at, they're going towards the left side of the zone, hoping that there's less and less players on that side. Deal looking good. One flopper though in terms of getting the HP back. Do you think they bought the Clicks bundle? I just see Fadil and he has the cold snap pickaxe.
Would you buy it?
I already did.
Fair enough. Personally, I'm just a fan of the 11 2K Taco Time bundle, Percy, but you know.
I've been had that one.
Respect. Behind Mixon. Way above on Surge and looking tight to that tally as they take shots. And that player gliding through the sky. I think that was for Nayan as Moneymaker is now trying to get over to his teammate and help him out.
$778 above the Thammer's threshold. For them, their only focus really is getting to the zone. They don't have to pause. They don't have to have any hesitation of where they're going to get their damage from. Same could be said here on this side of the map as they run out of stamina. the only situations where the mud sprint doesn't work in this situation. It's just immediately trying to go where there's less and less players, in theory, congested at, but a far, far drastic pull to the east side of the map. For anybody hoping that the west was the slow side, just got a curse. Robot by him. He's been by himself for so long. If they are going to win EU Week 1, it's off the back of Robob himself, literally.
Yeah, these guys have been solid. Proper did not expect them to be as good as they have been so far. Robob there, I think he said 20 elims. Not too shabby.
I like his patience. Striking when the timing's right. I don't know if he didn't get credit for that elimination, but that's a good amount of damage in terms of Storm Surge, especially when you're a solo. A solo in first place at that. Replay of Mr. Savage and Vidil so far out of zone. It gets a nice refresh, which is going to allow him to save that med miss for later on in the game.
And look, the points are very tight between 4th place and 8th place, so these guys very much have a chance to sort of push their way into that top 5 if they play their cards right this game and a couple things go their way with some of their competitors.
It's like 11 points between where they were positioned at the leaderboard to start the game to just outside of that top 3. To get into the top 3, though, a little bit more work. Try to make that come to fruition. About 40-something or so points. Don't know the exact math there, but definitely as long as you know the goal that you have to achieve, you can at least realize if it's possible in motion. Orion does go down. Cleaned up by Seti and Cam, even though they're not going to get the loot right away. It does look like they're at least trying to make a play for it, inching themselves closer and closer. Getting a little bit of loot to the start, trying to break through the build, but they got just enough from what they were looking for before they disengage into a safer position. This is the Seti and Cammy classic. They try to go unnoticed through the majority of the game until the late game in which they come online. From a bush to high ground. Still down on Surge. He has more than enough heals. Wild Wasp trying to displace him out of his position on that height. A good enough job as he continues to try to survive, but it's broken open. Those Wasps now doing some damage to his HP. Storm Surge as well. He gets the mini off just in time, and now he's just down to big pots. No more quick heals coming out from Robav, especially with the pressure from the low ground. This could be the last we see of first place, unless a miracle is going to be granted. He's still 74 below, and everything comes crashing down as Storm Surge on the back of DKS getting credit takes down first place.
That is tough. And first place, it was tight at the top. Seti and Cammy very much primed to just overtake them and steal first place away. Still, though, an impressive showing from Roban and Axe Force. And like you said, especially Roban, right, in terms of highlighting an individual, has been spectacular. They have 28 eliminations today. He has 20 of them on an absolute tear. And hope to see more of them doing well in the coming weeks.
That's the thing, you mentioned how small of a gap it actually is. To start this game off, it was a 5-point differential between first and second place, and it was 15 points between first and third place. So unfortunately for Roban, it is open for the taking for any of these teams trying to rise up. Moneymaker, F9, just trying to survive the pressure being put on from them and the rest of the lobby. They've done just enough to get above the damage threshold. So it's all about survival of the fittest here because they're so close to the zone on top of that. So it's a short hop, skip, beat away before they find some safety. They just have to survive the pressure.
I've just seen Seti and Cammy go down in the feed as well. So all of our top dogs really are struggling right now in this end game. We're dealing with Mr. Savage in the own little situation as well. Everybody having some problems. Savage finally getting cleaned up there.
They were just 11 points away from top 4. So it's going to be off the back of Video if that one is going to come to fruition as well. Clownski trying to go ahead and move up that mountain. Quicker the better. You don't want to be one of the last teams there being held by everybody else. As Vidil almost has no choice here as a solo. The big thing that's shining bright for him is his damage when it comes to Storm Surge. It's one less thing he has to worry about here as a solo. Well, well, well. Look at that mountain finally coming into play. That's QB waving his flag at the top of that one, claiming it as his own. But Mappy and iDrop, they have 2 VRs on the day. They already have an elimination. And we're going to quickly show a replay on how he even picked up that elimination while moving toward the zone.
Tough.
Ram, so he knocked on his door like Halloween and got all the candy in the world.
iDrop and Mappy looking very, very good. And if they really, really want to show what they can do to the rest of EU, they could very well go on to get a 3rd victory out today and pick up half of their games. What a story that would be for that team. And that's how you get a refresh and move in zones, ladies and gentlemen.
Right now, going to this game, first place was at 253 points, so they're 3 points away from claiming that top spot. And as long as they can stay alive, the next person to start the game was down from them themselves 36 points. And that was iDrop and Mappy, who are in prime position to try to pick up the pace here late in the game. They just need them to go down as Blatcha and Mixon going to lend a helping hand, taking one more team out of the lobby. Huge refresh, but when it comes to the mats, they don't have very many hard mats. So their name is Tropix. He lost Hootie. Now he's by himself with everything relying on this, and he goes down. Our top 3 are down and out of our final game.
This is not what you expected going into Game 6. You would have expected all the teams who have been doing so well throughout the day to just roll through in the last game and almost have some sort of a victory lap. Well, unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. It's going to be up to all the teams beneath them to start fighting, hustling, busting, moving their way up in the standings. Pink very much wants to add himself to that list, but it is going to be hard without Vico to play by his side. He's used to leading the charge, but he needs someone bringing him those materials, getting those refreshes. But now he has to bear all that responsibility on himself.
It's a big task to order from any of these players as we inch ourselves into the top 15. Lushi popping the last of his heals to try to stay alive, but he's staggered back. That's QB on the other side. That's iDrop and Mappy on the high ground. That's putting pressure. Slurp Juice still being active right now as he tries to make his way in towards the zone to try to alleviate any of the pressure. He becomes the target from multiple angles. Forced down low to the low ground, even out of the zone for a quick second as Pink, he has a little bit of a smoother road here towards the finish as not too many teams are contesting him as a solo.
Pink, he's done so well up to this point, and he's looking strong still, but eventually the materials are going to have to start running low, and that's going to force him to get a refresh. Oh my goodness, I've just seen in the feed he's taking down Clownski. Maybe there is hope for Pink in this game. Such low HP though. iDrop and Mappy though, very much looking for that 3rd VR. They are looking so strong in a lobby where when we bounce around player to player, everybody's looking scuffed, everybody's struggling, low on HP, low on materials. These guys still in the prime position, and even with just 4 builds, iDrop still very, very much sitting in a spot many people would want to be in. Blaha and Mixon, one of the few competitors left in this one, but they're low on materials. And so Vox and DKS have a chance here to make the play of a lifetime. Try wrap round in the zone and maybe claim the front of the zone when nobody has any builds. They're just going to try stay in the back of the zone, and everybody now, except for them, just on bare bones, playing 0 build almost. Mappy and iDrop still waiting up above, but they need to start hitting some shots and soon.
You gotta be careful though, because the timing of those players slowly but surely floating down could be what does him in the end. Wild Wasp being thrown up, iDrop and Mappy being forced down, and now that's a quick elimination onto DKS. Back to back, they're looking for the second one as it does get cleaned up. They move themselves into the final 4, and that's what you call thinking outside of the box. When players rift above, they just go below.
iDrop and Mappy have been sensational so far today, and this could be the victory lap for them. But Blatcher and Mixon are here to spoil the party. One found there, and it's all up to Mappy now to try and make the heal-off happen again. We saw this a couple games ago, and a chance now with the Medmis Do Blaha and Mixon have the heal-up potential though? It doesn't really seem like it. He's gonna start to run low, and so Mappy will secure it. A third victory royale for iDrop and Mappy. Mixon and Blaha did such a good job. You thought they were gonna steal it away, ruin the party, but Mappy was ready and waiting with the med mists.
And you said it yourself. There's something different about iDrop this season and the last couple of seasons. You're seeing exactly what that is. He has come out with a vengeance. He's come out with a fire unlike we haven't seen up until this point. And like I said, as those players ripped it up, instead of worrying when those players will drop down, they just did it all themselves. They took down the team at the low ground and clutched up big as Mappy going for the heal off. They tried to hunt him down, and it's just too little, too late for Blotch Mixon.
Wow, what a performance for those two. I don't know if I've ever told this story. I'll try to tell it as quickly as possible. I remember last year when iDrop was playing with Juriki, and Juriki was potentially going to leave him and drop him. And I remember asking iDrop, what are you going to do? Who are you going to play with? Who would you want to play with? And he said back then, I'd love to play with Mappy. And to see a year later what it has been with him playing with Mappy and how good Mappy truly is. He saw the vision all that time ago, and he's paying it off right now. A phenomenal performance. 3 VRs from a team in the first week of the qualifiers. You definitely do not see that often, Jacob.
Yeah, so many teams in this Week 1 finals invested so much into their duos. They invested so much as a team, and let me tell you, it has paid off strong. But we saw during the course of that last game, our first place went down, second place went down, and third place shortly followed. So first place is up for grabs, and only our analysts can break it all down to let us know who won Week 1.
Well, first off, a huge thank you to Levin, 2K, and Jacob PR for casting 6 games for us today in Europe. My, oh my. 3 victory royales from iDrop and Mappy. And let's just be clear here. No other region has done this. No other region has had a duo that has gotten themselves 3 victory royales. My, oh my, they are making a statement. I kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the show, but there's a lot of duos that they're really trying to make that global championship spot. And some of them are treating this as if it is globals already. And I feel like, Vivid, this is a duo that is just doing that. They are treating this like it is now. Like they are the ones aiming for that #1 spot after everything is said and done.
The high ground strategy from this duo is looking clean, and I gotta put a highlight on the way that they really closed the game out. We went towards Rift Island. There was a rift on the ground, and players were floating up above them, so they were kind of in this like zone where they were in a 2v2 towards the end, and that low ground team ended them shooting them out. They went ahead and took the fight, and then ultimately that team that was in the rift ended up landing above them, but there was a solo alive, and as soon as that solo went ahead and engaged that high ground team, iDrop went ahead, created a distraction, and Mappy just ran away, had all of the heals that we've seen them had time and time and time again today, and ended up paying off in this one.
I mean, 3 victory royales in 6 games is absolutely insane. I think I kind of know the reason why. Queasy Veno, where are they? They're nowhere to be seen. There are Hype Kings on Europe, and they haven't made a single endgame today. So it almost begs the question, is iDrop and Mappy the second place height dominating team? I think they are. They've proved it today. If Queasy and Veno aren't in the game, look up, because it's going to be iDrop and Mappy.
Which is crazy, because remember, the duo decided at the start of the day in Game 1, they were going to take everything they've known, everything we've known, and just toss it in the air, right? Going from Kenjutsu Crossing over to Secluded Spire. They decided, hey, we want to change it up for the day, and it cost them. But for iDrop and Mappy, hey, they're like, sounds good to us. We'll be the kings of high ground. King of the castle, well, we're kings of high ground and kings of the day. Let's take a look here at our standings. I want to see how things ended. Who is in that #1 spot? Now, please do remember, we were playing for series points, so after this, we're going to put points on a separate leaderboard based on total placement. iDrop and Mappy, they start major #3 in a huge way, coming out in that #1 spot. They are trying to send a message to everyone else. Hey, one of those spots to globals, that's going to be ours.
Yeah, I mean, listen, most points on the day is going to be putting them in #1 spot, obviously. But I'm looking at VRs. They had the most VRs. We already mentioned it. 3 of them is absolutely absurd. But also, they played into the objectives, right? Those mid-match objectives, claiming the Rift Island twice. Also boosting their points just enough to actually go ahead and take home that #1 spot.
Yeah, you can see by their placements, their eliminations, they haven't been too crazy on either one of those. It's just been consistent victory royales when they are making it to that end game. I'll read off their game history. First, 15 to 36, 36, first. It's not bad at all from them, is it? When they make it into that top 10, they are winning it.
That is insane. Right behind them, though, Blotch and Mixon, we saw them. These guys, alongside DKS, have, like, just been the consistent top 5s. You know, the consistent top 10s we've seen over and over. And to end the day in second place, this is also a message, right? Because it may not be that first, but to come in second, to be able to say, look, we're coming up in just as many points, that's where I want to be.
Yeah, the chase was on for Blotcha and Mixon. I want to give a big shout out to Robob because, I mean, they were in first place for most of the day. So that was actually incredible to see. And also, I mean, Cammy and Seti, I got to give a big shout out to them as well because they were looking very, very clean on some of those mid and low ground layers.
Yeah, they really were. We got to see a little bit of what we used to see from them, playing those mid to low ground layers, playing hip to hip as we do expect from this duo, and not too high on the eliminations. We saw them kind of try and switch their strategy a little bit today, try and go for eliminations earlier on, and I think they're just kind of finding their feet in this current meta, in this current way that they're playing, and I'm sure that they're 6th on the leaderboard today. I'm sure if they make it to finals next week, they'll be looking to get a better performance, and I believe they will, to be honest.
Yeah, the no mobility is definitely a difficult obstacle to overcome, right? Because a lot of these duos are thinking, are we being contested or do we have mobility? Let's go get Surge. That's not the case, right? So many of them have to come up with new plans, and with the reintroduction of that Siphon, they're all thinking, all the plans we had, let's reassess those, right? So much adapting has to be happening here in the game. I also wanted to highlight Vico and Pink, right? A duo that just recently came together. They're trying to make a spot in Globals, and honestly, they had a good showing today.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I was watching this last game right here. Of course, they're going into it. Vico and Pink both alive, and they were looking very, very healthy. But unfortunately, soon after, Vico did end up going down, and Pink was actually left to solo clutch it up. And he put on a run. Me, Zeke, and Minnie were watching. We were like, hold up, like, I thought Vico was supposed to be the one that was mechanical on this duo.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. I mean, Pink was doing a great job. I mean, what's that? 7 eliminations you can see at this stage of the game is absolutely massive for this team. And they're just able to play these layers so well. When you have 2 players that are able to be fraggy, I mean, we saw it with Robab and Axe Force. This is a team that will be able to replicate some of that success as well. If they can fix a few of their mistakes in mid-game, make it to more of these end games as a duo, this is where this team can really find success. And it's only week 1, the first time we're getting to see them perform in FNCS, and I'm excited.
It's going to be so good, man. Remember, we have a couple more weeks here. Then we have Grand Finals, Last Chance Major. The next little bit for Fortnite is going to be absolutely nuts. Now, another special thing we have is actually an interview. We have one of the players we watched compete. He came in 3rd place today. It is none other than Roban. We will be getting to talk to him. And of course, a huge congratulations, ending the day in 3rd place after Major #1. This is a fantastic start. I want to know, though, how are you and your duo feeling about the day so far?
I'm feeling good. Just like a bit of mistakes, and I'll make sure to fix them next time.
Yeah, what do you guys feel like is maybe a hurdle you guys are trying to overcome? Because, like, look, 3rd place is still amazing, but obviously the work's not done. So what do you guys feel like are those little things you need to shore up?
Maybe, like, just fix small mistakes. Like, don't be, like, greedy for, like, kills, or, like, just wait and play it slow. And, yeah, just get the end game.
And you're talking about being greedy for eliminations, but it seemed like eliminations were the biggest factor in terms of getting you guys the most points. Is that the strategy for you guys? Just get as many eliminations as possible? Or talk to us about your strategy going into those end games.
Our strategy is to be like aggressive, but also play slow and get like easy kills with the rifle. But I would say like this time, I think we overfrag a bit because this is usually not our playstyle, but it works, I guess.
I mean, yeah, you went crazy on those eliminations. You particularly, of course, you had an unbelievable amount throughout the day. What is the secret? I want to know. How do you play so effectively, staying alive into that late game and picking up eliminations?
Just playing my life, I guess. I think like Just keep playing slow and don't overcommit stuff, and you will actually be like really good in the leaderboard, like really good points, and yeah, your play is very good.
Yeah, I love to see it. Well, hey, Roban, thank you so much for your time. For the fans at home, where can they look to find you guys?
On my Twitter or my YouTube, it's called Roban FN, both of them.
Thank you so much, Roban. Best of luck in the coming weeks, and we hope to see you guys in the finals next week. There you go. Getting to hear from Roban himself, a man of little words, but very much in the way of talent. My, oh my. EU has not disappointed, but gentlemen, I have to remind myself, tomorrow is NA, and I feel like if there's, maybe what's a thing we could take from EU that we're hoping to see incorporated into NA tomorrow?
I think it's going to be the high ground, right? Maybe some of these NA teams are kind of watching, seeing how free a lot of these EU teams got away with the high ground. Not even necessarily the high ground takes. It's just like if you kind of had it during like 7th, 8th zone, you kind of just had it for the rest of the game. So maybe they'll watch this and go for a little bit more contesting on the high ground.
I think a lot of teams will be contesting that Rift Island as well, because we've seen it make the difference right now. iDropperMappy ended up coming out on top because of the Rift Island points they managed to get. 30 is absolutely massive. So I think a lot of NA teams will be looking at that and thinking, if we get those points, then we could be in a similar situation. So I hope to see that tomorrow.
Mid-game objectives, man. I'm telling you, they are very important. Now, very quickly, let's touch on the broadcast schedule. When are we back next? Well, don't forget, tomorrow, as we mentioned, we'll be back for the action over in NA. But if you want to see specifically the action in Europe, when that is, here is a breakdown for you guys. July 29th, of course, 2 big things to note. One, Grand Finals is going down August 12th to 13th. You want to come back for that because that will give us the top 10 going into Globals. But Last Chance Major, August 20th, will be the final opportunity to try and claim spots going to Global Championships. That is going to be some of the craziest and high-stakes play we've seen up until this point, so please don't miss out on both of these things. We hope to see you guys then. Now, of course, I've talked about it a lot because I'm super excited about it. Global Championships are coming up, and guess what? There's still tickets available. We have an amazing little ad. In case you didn't see it at the beginning of the show, we want you guys to check this out. This is the Global Championship.
The best players in the world all battling it out.
Insane matches already today.
These are the moments that make these players championship material.
One chance to make it happen, and they take it by force.
It is going to be absolutely insane. Global Championships, I'm telling you, do you want to go to Copenhagen, hang out with us, watch some incredible Fortnite action? Don't miss out. It's going to be absolutely insane. Anyway, guys, after today, how are you guys feeling about the 6 games we've watched? Anything that you want to see improved coming into next week?
Listen, I feel like I didn't see enough mud used today. I want to see a little more of that. I think the interview that we had towards the end there with Roban, we were asking about all these eliminations that he kept getting. He was like, nah, we're just playing slow. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, you're playing slow and getting like more eliminations than anybody else. How's that working? I have no idea. Excited to see if they can continue to play slow next week.
Yeah, continuous plays. I mean, slow for them is different than slow to us, I think. Slow for them is 30 eliminations a game, apparently, which for us, that is like 0. But no, it's great to see those guys popping off. And it's been a great day overall. The whole competition has been fantastic. I was kind of intrigued as to how the players were going to adapt to the no mobility. And I think a lot of players were taking those slap splashes, and I really expect to see that become the meta this season if no other mobility gets added or anything else changes, because that's, I think, the most important thing for these teams on the rotates.
Absolutely. Well, that is it from us here for the FNCS in EU. Again, huge thank you to Jacob PR and Levin2K, our casters. Of course, thank you to these 2 incredible human beings, our analysts, Vivin, and of course, Mini Miner. And of course, shout out to Taco, great mid-game analyst. And that's it for us for now, but we'll be back tomorrow. More Fortnite, more action. As always, we love you. Keep yourself safe, and we'll see you on that battle bus.